planned these a year ago,
Yeah.
so all
Yeah.
right. Let's see if we're live here.
Hello.
Hello, friends. I think it's live. I'm waiting for my computer to say so, but yes, we are. Hello, friends, and welcome to SJM-ALONG with me and we're the Valkyries tonight. Who are we? We're the Valkyries. I'm really excited. I am wearing my night court shirt, but no one can see it because it's down here. But I'm very, very excited about this. The books to talk about, like this book and the next book, are the ones I've been most excited for. This one for a lot of personal reasons. I think I've decided that this is my favorite SJM book after rereading. Like, honestly, Mist and Fury is so nostalgic and it's beautiful and like it is special in what it is. But for personal journey and personal like enjoyment, I love this book more every time I've read it. I think this is the fourth time now when I was
Oh,
counting
wow.
back. So because this was one of my favorites of 2021. So like I read it multiple times and then I listened to the audiobook and now we're rereading this. And I will admit to everyone, I've said this, my buzzer may go off because the Prime dude just drove by. So we'll see if I have a package coming. Hold on. I was like, I think I don't have anything coming today, but if the buzzer goes off, I'll be right back. But I had my migraine while I was reading this, so I had to go back over it today. I may have missed some things, so hopefully you will catch me if I miss some of the good stuff. But you have an hour left. Well, boy, that's all the good stuff right there too. Hi,
Yeah.
Lizelle. We're so glad you're here. Hey, Amanda, Komal, and Cool Gamer. Always happy to have you. So glad you're here. Amanda, this is your favorite too. Yes. Well, and I've heard the graphic audio is going to be in 2 parts for this one, and it's coming pretty soon. So I will reread it for that. Did Frost and Starlight come out in graphic audio already too? I think it did.
Yeah.
Because I think it did, because I might have to save those for a little bit, but I want to listen to these in graphic too. I can only imagine how good this one would be.
Yeah.
And they said they fit it into 2, so that's nice.
Some of those battles and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this one isn't told in first person.
Correct.
So it's kind of a little different.
Yeah. It's much more like a storytelling narrator, like normal. So that's really cool. What else was I going to say? We had that transition book with the Frost and Starlight, because that had Reese and Feyre, and it had Cassian and Nesta and more. You know, it had everybody's POVs in that one. So we kind of had that transition. I think it's really interesting because she still does such a great job of letting us know what's going on. Like, it's a very close third person, so I didn't really feel left out of anything. So that's really good. But let me see what some people are saying. It's my favorite too. Yay. Nesta is my girl, guys. Nesta's my girl. I read this one faster than all the other ones. Oh, I love hearing that, Brenda.
I think I might have too.
The graphic audio of Silver Flames coming out in May. Yes, I knew this one was coming soon. The first half of it is. Lizelle and I were talking about that already. You have the Aquafast graphic audio pre-ordered. It says it's March 1st. Okay, so March 1st and then May for those. I was just talking with Carrie today too, because graphic audio does have the rights to do the Throne of Glass series. That is what they're making after. So they will be doing those. And I was like, you know what? Maybe by the next time we finally get news about a book, someone will do another readathon and they'll read through them. Because there's already cross SJM read-alongs going, because, you know, it's been a year since we started this. So other people it's time for things to get going. So it's really fun. But anyway, I was waiting for everyone to hop in. We have, of course, oodles to get through. I was telling Melissa, I have 78 banners made. We probably won't do all of them, but when I was trying to break down the story, and StreamYard only lets you do 50 in one folder, so I had to make a second folder to fit all of them. But we'll try not to do every single little bit of it, but we'll start with this. Did we have any first-time readers for this one?
This was
to ask, because I know for us this is a multiple reread for this, but we got to ask the question we've been asking the whole time, but we won't spend too much time with this. We'll give people some time. I loved this one so much. I wasn't sure SJM could make me love or forgiveness. So this must have been your first time then, Candace, right? Or are you just speaking about a read talk? I think these are your first time,
I think
right?
it was her first time from what I was reading on my Instagram when she was posting about it.
I think it was too. This was your first time. Excellent. How did people feel? I think that's a great thing. You didn't think you could forgive Nesta. So I, like, as we do, like, looking back, I knew I was going to forgive Nesta because I had my eye on what was happening with her kind of the whole time. I don't blame anyone who doesn't. You know, there are plenty of friends who are like, oh, I don't care if she's having her HEA or whatever. You know, I completely understand if they didn't care. I maybe didn't feel that way when I read the trilogy the first time. I was kind of like, Nesta, take a chill pill. But when I like reread the trilogy and then read, like, you know, when I read Frost and Starlight or In the Time Waiting for This Book, I knew that she had some trauma we didn't understand. Like I knew that she did. And I also was tracking the fact that it had to do with daddy issues for sure. I didn't know her extent of mommy issues that she had. Did not know her extent of mommy issues that she had. But I just knew there would be something good. Like I just trust Sarah J. Maas, but I understand if people don't, especially if it's people who have or they've listened to certain opinions about the original trilogy and kind of see it as fairy porn still, you know, which we've talked about, don't understand how. With this one, I can understand a little more why this one might be seen as a bit of fairy porn, because it's this one, we go for it in this one, but it's still, someone says, there's someone on TikTok who does like percentage of books. When people call something like erotica, she'll be like, let's break it down. This is what erotica means. This book's still page to page, like it's not, but it is good. She stepped up her game for this. All right, let's see what some people said.
I was one of the rare people. I never had a problem with Nesta. I understood her from the beginning. And I think part of it is, I mean, I get the, to let her little sister go out and do this, but I could tell from like the way that she was written that she was mad at her dad.
Yeah.
And wanted him to step up and not, she was like, I'm not going to do it. He should be the one to do it. And then Pharaoh was like, well, someone's got to, so I'm going to do it.
Right. Yep.
And so I never hated her. I mean, I got annoyed with her and I was like, okay, you're a little over the top, but I never disliked her. So I never had I was excited to read her book.
Right. I read it for the first time right after I read the novella. Yes, that's right. Because Amanda couldn't wait. And I completely understand. I completely understand not being able to wait. I love it. Yeah. And I even think, well, let's go to the other side then, like as the rereader. So through my haze of pain, as I said, because I was listening to this on the couch like this the whole time. I'm so dramatic. It was a bad week, you guys, but this book helped me through. This time I was really trying to watch it because some of our friends who have had to fall off of the readathon due to life. I remember the first time they were reading it and feeling very like, why is Nesta like grinding this out so long? Why is she stretching this out so long? And so I was trying to keep an eye on that this time to see, is it just because I'm enamored with Nesta and I relate to her that she works so well for me? And, you know, as we go through this journey tonight, we're going to walk through this. I really feel like she has given up. She's given up. And she wants everyone else to give up on her too. So every time she does one of these things where we're just like, Nesta, you're pushing people away too far, like that for me is the point. Like where she's at mentally, she's like, I don't care about my survival or my health. Why does anyone else do that? What do I have to do for you to give up on me? Like that's how I see what she's doing. Like she's like, my sisters are taken care of. Nobody needs me here. I just want to fucking eat and well, not eat. I want to fucking drink myself gone. Like, I don't want these powers. I don't want to understand them. I don't want anything. I just want everyone to hate me. And so nothing that she did like pushed me away too far because I was just like, oh, girl, you're just hurting yourself. Just stop. Yeah. Just stop hurting yourself, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I felt that way. Like I could, I could see it and I knew like, she's just like, I don't care. Why do you guys care about me? I don't care about myself. And you knew that she cared deeply about everyone else. She wouldn't admit to it because she's too stubborn, which I mean, I understand, but she was like, I don't care about myself. Everyone else is happy and good. And everyone else, and then really, like when Amryn kind of gave up on her. Yeah. And it was like, well, my one friend gave up on me and I've given up on me. Why don't the rest of you give up on me?
Yeah. Yeah. But Amryn didn't really give up on her.
No, she didn't. She just thought she did because.
Yeah. Amryn was like, well, she's got to be pushed further then to see if she has any of her spark left, which we're going to get into it. I'll look at a couple people's questions and we'll get started because you know it. We'll probably have to have an intermission for this one because I was all like, every time. I know. Every time we sit down, I'm like, I'm going to be concise. We're going to get to the points. And then we talk for the first 15 minutes. I'm like, nope, we got to do it all. We got to do it all because these videos will live forever on the playlist and we can come back to them later. What I appreciate more after listening to the audiobook is the romance and how romantic and steamy it was. To me, this is the most romance-centric book. That is exactly it, Amanda. I have notes about that. After now having read book by book all the way through, this is the most romantic book she's written. And I feel the love that Sarah put into this so much and her wanting everyone to love Nesta and finally get to like lift that burden. Like I can feel it. And Rhys may be a more romantic character in himself as singular, but we don't always get to see it because we're in the middle of stuff. Cassian and Nesta, like they are very romantic with each other.
Yeah. And not even that it's most romantic. In my opinion, it's the most like just relationship based, like friendship based, because Nesta's going out. Yeah. Her sister, like Nesta's going out and finding her own family and like finding her own way and friendships in this world. And then yes, and it is they are very romantic towards each other, but just in terms of like friendship and just relationships in general, this one is more of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and she, and like, I think that's a great point because everyone else, they've all had built in like family already, you know, like Feyre just like dropped into Rhys's family and it's just like, they all love her because of who she is or whatever. Whereas like Nesta needs to have like a separate thing because she needs that and just like a lot of things. So this is a 4-3 read for me. Love that. Still love it. Love it. This book felt a little slow compared to what I remember from the others. Yep. Especially since she was already set up from the last book. I think that is fair. I think that's fair. That is something that as I said, that I also heard from friends reading it the first time. I think that we needed it from her point of view though, because we need to really see what all her damage is from what she's living in. Whereas, I mean, yes, we get a little bit in A Court of Frost and Starlight, but also not everyone read A Court of Frost and Starlight before they read this because they thought it was just a little like whatever. So Sarah has to show that. And Feyre's view of Nesta and Rhys's view of Nesta is very different from what she's actually living in. And so I think we need to set that up. But that's just my opinion. And each time I read it, it feels less slow. That was the other thing I was going to say too. I think the first time it felt particularly slow because I was like, okay, let's get to what the plot is here. Okay, we're still so sad. And I was very like, I'm so depressed. I need us to move on. But in rereads, I'm like, no, she's just living in depression. And I actually felt like it moved faster each time I read it.
One that goes back to the relationship base of it, you know? Your character, it's more character driven than it is plot driven. Like the other ones are more about the wars and everything going on. Yeah. This one is more about her journey and her relationships. So it is going to be slower because you're not going to have this, oh, we're building up. I mean, yes, you have a build up to something.
Yeah.
But it's like, but we're not building up. We knew we knew what was going to happen with Amarantha. We knew they were going to go to battle with Highburn. Like we knew all of that stuff was going to happen. But this one, it was like, I mean, yeah, you kind of had ideas of who the bad guy was going to be and what was going to happen with that. But it was also, Nesta was her own bad guy. It was more, the bad guy was her inner demons than it was Briallen.
Right.
So.
Hold on. I'm sorry. What is this? Okay. Getting spammed over here. And I'm like, stop it. Yes. The relationships and her healing journey are at the center. The action is not the most important. Right. When Rhys sees her trauma, I think it really drives home. Yes. Rhys, he's a bit of a jerk in parts of this. I understand. Some people get really, I saw a TikTok on Rhys about what he's like in Silver Flames, and I really loved it because, I mean, I obviously never get like annoyed with him in this. We'll get into it. But someone's opinion, they're like, Rhys isn't being a different person in this book. We're just seeing him from Nesta's glasses, where Nesta's always kind of been like this pretentious, like fairy guy, just thinks he's so smooth. And Rhys has just been like, I literally don't give two fucks what you think about me. And I think that you put the woman I love through a lot of shit. That's like what he thinks it is. Yeah. And so he's very much just like, if you could, like, I would kick you out tomorrow. I would kick you out. You're here because of Feyre. And like Nesta knows that. So there's some resentment. It's like, then fucking do it. Anyway, we'll get into it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was expecting more of the book to be about political conflict and was like, what's happening? I'm sure it'd be different if I'd known rather than part. That, yeah, and that's great. That's great. It's your favorite book too. Perfect. Okay, I've done enough blabbering. We're going to get into this. We're going to start with part 1, the novice. And like I said, we'll try to keep pushing through, but there's a lot of stuff we'll have to stop on. So I'm going to do what we've kind of done before. We're just going to go through kind of like the outline of it. And when we get to like sticking points where we want to talk, we'll talk. But otherwise, we'll try to push through it as much as we can. Which I don't know if we will. I'll try my best. But anyway, we're in part 1. And we'll just kind of start with some of the characters. I'm going to show up and talk about where we're starting with everybody. So Nesta's trauma and the beginning state of her. Our girl's in a really dark place. We know that from Frost and Starlight. And this, I believe, is like 6 months on from that. Like, I can't remember how far on from it is, but it's a good chunk on because this book takes place over some time. This is like a 6 to 8 month long story that we have. And we kind of track that through Feyre's pregnancy during this too. Because
I would say
because at Solstice is when they were going to like start trying. And now she is just like 2 months in or so. We'll find out soon. But so it's been like 6 months more of that. And she's just been living her nasty self. And so she has some dude at her apartment, which I will say, like, that's tough to see. Okay. We don't like seeing someone we know has a fated mate acting this way. That's something
on it too.
Oh yeah, like
he's like, you don't even wash your sheets. Like I can smell all these different men, like all these different males. I smell them on your sheets.
Yeah, it's tough. So yeah, so we see all that, and in the prologue we see it too of just like these nightmares she has. she has her issues with the crackling fire, so she lives in like cold and squalor. But also it's like it's not easy to kill a fae, so she's kind of putting herself in this limbo of just, let me see if I can ruin myself anymore, you know. And then we also have Cassian's beginning state, who he feels very lost to me. That's like what I was feeling with him. Because, you know, a lot of the things he's tried to do with the Illyrians in the past years, not really getting traction with that, feeling frustrated. Up until this point, they haven't really had anything much for him to do. Like we're at the beginning where he's going to be given some jobs to do, but you know, I think that he probably thought a little bit of him that like, we lived through this, I should be with my mate. You know, like I feel that from him, of he's kind of in this depressed spot too, where he's like, we lived, shouldn't we be having like a happily ever after?
Yeah, shouldn't we be like, together and happy? And
yeah, and no, she's fucking other people and I'm miserable too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's tough to see. It's tough to see our Fae himbo in this like sad state.
Yeah. And you know he doesn't want to push her on it, because he tried at Solstice, which we saw in Frost and Starlight, and she was just like not having it. Like she was not into it at all. And she's like, and he doesn't understand why though. Like, why don't you get this?
Yeah, he's not getting it. He's not getting it. And then we have, let's see. How and where she lived was kind of, in my opinion, is a reflection of how she felt about herself. Basically trash. That's right. It's not really until Feyre says enough does it begin. Yes, we're going to get to that. Nesta has survivor's guilt. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, Hope, that's exactly on the money. We'll call that out, because when she breaks down later, I don't want to jump ahead. We have so much to get through, but you can call these out. People in the comments, you can call this stuff out, but we'll get to that. But, you know, it's like she had completely given up on her father, and then he does what he does at the end. And again, we'll dive into that more, but it's like, should she forgive him for what she's felt because he made that sacrifice, or does she still get to be angry about it, you know? Yeah. Oops. Cass was also angry from the novella. He tried so hard to reach out. Yeah, I know. He threw the gift away. That was so sad. It was really sad and hard to read. You know, Nesta is miserable too. Yeah, it's not like she's living her best life. And this is the one. Yes, she has PTSD. Yes. The crack of the fire stuff is just so heartbreaking. And everyone's always just trying to warm her up. Everywhere.
Yeah.
And when you know that now too, about like winter solstice, when Cassian realizes that fire was just blazing bigger and louder than ever, and that explains like why she was just like curled in the corner, just living it. Yeah. It's hard to see. It's very hard to see. All right. And then we have the ultimatum, which is a big one. It's a big one. And the thing that I think about it too is, from where we saw the mental state of Feyre in Court of Frost and Starlight, her and Rhys were working through some PTSD together, and her deciding that they could try for a baby was kind of her moving through hers and believing that they would have a future together. So I see it as like Feyre very much being like, I need to do something to push her far enough to snap for herself. You know, like I think Feyre realizes that she has to let her sister snap. And she had hoped that she would snap through her debauchery, and that's kind of why they put up with it, you know? Yeah. But that's so hard. I mean, again, why I empathize and feel this so much is like, I'm the child of an alcoholic. I've seen them spiral and spiral and spiral, and they never find the bottom until they find the bottom. And you as the observer may think that the bottom has been reached many, many layers before it is. but you have to protect yourself. I'm proud of Feyre for being like, I'm sick of watching it, so this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree in some, but Feyre, I mean, Nesta could have had someone to lean on. She just chose not to. Feyre obviously had Rhys and her family to lean on. And obviously everyone in this story has past traumas, Azriel, Cassian, Rhys, Feyre, but they've also had centuries to work through this trauma. In terms of like life, in an immortal life, Nesta is still so young. Yes, she's older than Feyre, who's only 20, 21, 22. Yeah. So she's probably maybe 30, but that's still so young in terms of like a Fae lifespan. And in a mortal lifespan, she's still young and like trying to figure this all out. And she doesn't think she has anyone to lean on. And so she's like, I'm just going to do whatever I can to cope however I can.
Yep.
Is it healthy? No, it is not. But
it's to drown the voices out.
Yeah.
You know, it's to drown out. Well, and also her trauma with Cassian too. Like a big part of not wanting to accept being a mate is, I mean, well, we'll get there. She thinks she's trash and doesn't deserve him.
Yeah.
Because of all that, you know.
That's one of my favorite quotes ever.
So good. So good. So we get the ultimatum, which is that they are cutting her off. And if she wants to stay, she needs to start going to training and she needs to work in the library. She needs to work. But other than like being provided for food and like clothing, she's getting cut off because she's been erratic. She's been living the life of a rake. Nesta's been living the life of a wastrel.
Yeah, spending a lot of money and not doing anything.
Yeah,
and ultimately, I mean, she makes Rhys look kind of bad when like she's going out and spending all of his money and no consequences are happening.
That's right. Money that like they've earned, kind of, or have. I mean, in either way, it's not hers, but
yeah.
Nesta felt so ganged up on during the scene where they gave her the ultimatum. Yep. And it just made her rage grow and resentment. And Elaine also sliding in just made it worse. That's right. Elaine.
I still can't. I think my dislike towards Elaine has always been worse than my dislike of Nesta. And it's just, this read has made me dislike her even more.
I know.
And I'm like, how is she going to get redeemed in her book?
She will.
Well, I know she will. But I'm wondering how Sarah's going to do that for me. Because everyone
Well, I want to know what her trauma is, right? Because, you know, we've seen what Feyre's issues with her father is and like how she felt. We've seen what Nesta's issues with her father and her mother were. And of course, from Nesta's point of view, she's like, Elaine was treated like the princess. Elaine was the one who like got all this. I absolutely believe when we get her POV, like we'll see what's happening with her and what it means for like the oracle type power she has, what that's doing to her brain, what she thinks about Feyre and Nesta. Like I fully believe we'll love her. And it's why like I've just even stopped trying to like hate on Elaine. Like I used to be much more because I just know Sarah has a plan for her and what is going to happen, you know? But this time around, I mean, Tiffany and I had talked about it because Tiffany is always like, I don't trust her. I wanted her. Like, you know, Tiffany will always say that. And I was like, I really tried to watch Elaine this time too, because we honestly don't see Elaine much at all. Like she, of course, she's showing up at the worst times is the issue. Like we're only seeing her at the worst times because that's when it affects Nesta. But I really want to know what she's done because it does seem to me that Elaine has done some healing. She just doesn't know how to interact with her sister anymore when she's not being the like, oh, da, 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 I like pretty pink thing. You know, like that's very much what she was before.
Yeah.
So she's very different and I want to know why, you know, because I mean, we also know how it is when someone is going through like their journey that anything that person does just needles you the wrong way. And I very much think that's how Sarah uses her. Like they like Sarah uses Elaine to poke at Nesta because she's her weak spot. Like, she's done so much to protect Elaine, and she's very, like, resentful that she feels kind of like, you know, she went into the cauldron, like, for her, even though that's not true. Like, Highburn was doing that to her no matter what.
Well, and like, I mean, not to jump ahead, but when Elaine shows up at the house and she's like, why didn't you back me up? Like, I sat here with you every day after we went into the cauldron, and I did all this stuff for you, and you couldn't say anything to stop this from happening. And so I get where Nesta's coming from in that, like, because she did. Which again, that's part of, I'm sure that's going to be part of Elaine's trauma. She babied her and did all this stuff and like sat with her and helped her. And yes, I mean, I think ultimately that was part of what Elaine's healing journey went towards. We don't see that, but I'm sure we will. And she's like, but why? So why couldn't you be there for me when I needed you?
Right. And I mentioned this one in a previous live where I always love what Sarah does with her female characters. And often she shows their strength in ways we don't originally see, you know, like with Melisande, like we see her did I just say her name right, or did I just mess up with? I think I did. I was just thinking that I just say Game of Thrones instead, but the name is probably the same. Anyway, sorry. But like where we don't know what their strength is until there's the moment for them to need to do something. And I highly suspect, sorry, this is a theory coming early. I highly suspect it will have something to do with diplomacy. I think Elaine and like Lucian and like because we got to work out that issue stuff later. I think that Elaine is going to get sent on a diplomacy mission of some type, and that's where we're going to get to see her shine. And I've said, like, both Feyre and Nesta are fighters. Like, they are. Feyre was already a fighter and a hunter, and she just honed herself, whereas Nesta wasn't a fighter on the outside and becomes one so that she can do that. Whereas Elaine, I think, is going to be on the diplomacy side, where when cooler heads need to prevail, she can do that. That's just what I'm seeing. That's what I'm imagining. There will need to be a lot of work that has to be done for people to love her, but I believe in it. Nesta has fired. Nesta least has fired, good or bad. What? I'm not sure what you mean.
At least has fire, good or bad.
Oh, got it.
Typos.
Yeah, I've been far more frustrated with Elaine, but this book made me trust her. Yes, yeah. We're going to get there. I felt for Nesta so much when she realizes that they were talking about her. Yeah. Not that she would have been receptive, but it seemed like she never really tried to understand what she was going through. Yeah. Well, it's that case of like, when a character is a bitch, people think they don't have feelings. That happens. I've been talked about behind my back because people think you're strong enough or it's not a big deal, when sometimes that hurts you the most. Is why can't you just be honest with me? Like, you're trying to protect me from stuff where I would rather just have all of it, you know? So anyway, so we get the ultimatum, and then this is what I put as the prompt is like, so we go to the house, and the thing with the house is they're like, you're going to be taken to everything you're supposed to do. You know, like you have a schedule. You'll be taken to training, and then you'll be taken to the library. Otherwise, you're going to stay up at the house. Yeah. And the only way is if you can take the steps. If you can somehow take all 10,000 steps down there and get someone to buy you a drink, then you can have one.
And not only just taken to training, but taken to training at an Illyrian war camp.
Yeah.
Where they've already in previous books called her a witch.
Yep. Well, we'll get to that. That's that's our first break moment, because all of this is Nesta still digging her heels in and being her prickly self is what we have going with it. But we have the house, the magical house, that won't give her alcohol, but will give her smutty books when she wants them. And I love watching her strength training in this. As someone who has went through many years of strength training at this point, I loved watching that. I know that this was something for Sarah too as well, like for her health. She started doing like yoga and like training and stuff. So a lot of the exercise, she's like, you feel like you're a limp noodle when you first start doing things. And that is also especially true when you are coming off of being an addict to anything as well. Like you are extremely weak. I love the house. Yes, the house is beautiful. We will talk much more about the house. Oh, I will talk about the house, Stacey. I am obsessed with the house. I would like to live in one that does that. Who wouldn't? So that is what her schedule is going to be. Then this is my prompt for this, about this. So once she's been given that, so Reese is talking to Cassian about, hold on, I have my notes down here for this, about kind of what our secondary plot is for this one. Because in this book, the big bad is the secondary plot. The first plot is the romance and the journey of Nesta. So we are right about this. This is a character focused book, very much so. And we find out that the mortal queens, there's one of the queens left, right? That's how this is, Brialyn. And it's possible that she's trying to stir up some trouble. That's what we know kind of at this point. And so Cassian kind of gets tasked to not only still trying to make sure the Illyrians are behaving themselves, but also that he might need to go do a little bit of stuff behind the scenes. Not behind the scenes, what is it? Diplomacy. He needs to try doing some diplomacy. Because Lucien is pretty buddy-buddy with these people. So it's like we trust his opinion, but we also know that he's going to give them kind of a rosy review because they're his friends. And so we need Cassian to kind of go and like figure out what's going on. And so we hear a couple other names. This is me kind of like skipping through some of this because we'll get into more of this when we get to the big conflicts. But we hear some names thrown around. We have Koschei, who he's the death god, right? Mm-hmm. That's his like title. And then Brialyn is that human queen who, this is the queen that ended up being turned super old.
Yeah, she got turned into like a hag.
Yeah, so instead of being like, instead of being given like eternal youth, she's turned into a hag for like what she did. And so obviously she's a little angry about that. We also have to deal with this dude, and he is kind of moving forward a little bit with his rebellion against his father. He has his, like an army that would work with him if he needs them to, but he's also kind of nervous that his father would turn against the High Lords to work with Brialyn because he's not pleased ever because Baron is a dickwad. So
yeah,
there's that. So this is my like poor explanation of some of those. But I'm just trying to move us along because we'll get into that more. But basically that's it. Cassian gets the heads up of that. Then we also see just in the background of this of Nesta, her nightmares. She very much has nightmares every night, different ones all the time. Sometimes they're her father, sometimes it's her mother. Just the ghosts that people live with PTSD. It's a whole thing. I loved Ears by the End. Yes, I know. There's more to that. Okay, there's more to this. Every time I read it, I more think like there's more to Eris than we think there is. Like, there's more going on. Definitely is. Okay, so then we have our first attempt at training, and it does not go well for quite a while. And in fact, I got to tell you, like, I felt so uncomfortable for Cassian. Like, I really did, because for me, Cassian is my precious baby boy, okay? And though I understand Nesta's, like, thought process in this, and when we finally get it right, it feels so good. But Cassian is already called, like, the bastard and, like, worthless. And so for Nesta to kind of insult him in front of them, I was like, Nesta, don't do it this way.
And she even says in her monologue, like in her internal thoughts, is like, I know I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
but I'm gonna stick my heels in and do it anyways. Because I caught that in one of the like moments when it was from her POV, and she was like, "I know I shouldn't do this because it's gonna make him look really bad, but I just don't care."
Yep. And then when Moore picks her up to take her to the library, I mean, Cassian is like, he's upset about it. And it's kind of a thing, like, I just feel very anxious when it's happening because I'm like, this whole book, the first part of it for me is like, how far is she going to push Cassian? Like, how far is she going to push him? Because he's been very patient all this time. He's been very like, I understand that this has to be painful. You know, he's been very patient. And so I'm just like, don't push him too far. Like, don't push him too far. But
I mean, at this point, he's already accepted that's his mate. I think everyone knew.
Yeah.
But like, we don't know until like a little further down, obviously. Yeah. But I think at this point, he had already accepted. Like, he accepted that was his mate in aftermath.
Well, I say this, like, the very first time I was reading this, I was messaging some of my friends who are reading it. I was like, why are we acting like they're not mate? Like, why is there a question happening? I mean, I know that we still get to like accept it, but the fact that nobody would like call it what it was, I was like, we know. Like, we all know. Just the way that we know that Lucian and Elaine are mates, like, we know. And it was like, by not naming it, you're not like putting it off. But because then when it actually came, like, there was people who were reading it for the first time who were like, oh, they are mates. And I was like, did you not think they were? Like, yes, I was waiting for her to say it, but like, they were mates, guys. They were. Like,
I saw that coming back in A Court of Mist and Fury.
Yeah, like, we knew this.
Before when he like calls her out in Mist and Fury.
Yeah. Moore hurls a vicious insult at Nesta about everyone hating her after that. No. She probably does. Moore doesn't put up with the bullshit. Like, she's not playing the games because she doesn't like her. So, don't jump ahead, Como. We're getting there. Don't jump ahead. No. We're keeping it together. All right. So then we have our first point where I really wanted to dive into, and that has to do with, so we get to the library, we get assigned our work, and when we meet Gwyn, which I did give Gwyn her own, but I want to focus on this because Gwyn is like a servant priestess kind of. She's like assigned to work with Meryl, who Meryl does these really brilliant like research projects, and that's why people put up with her being kind of like a bitch, who is how she is, very picky and persnickety about it. But we give all the priestesses a pass for the most part, any of them, because they've been through lots of awful things. If they're there, they've been through awful things. Which to me is also an overarching sign that I feel like Rhys and Feyre knew that spending time with people at the library would eventually get to Nesta, that though her trauma might not be the same thing as some of these ladies, that being around them would be good for her. That was really obvious to me with this. But one of the things Meryl is working on is a theory about different realms and how they connect and how you could go, and that there may be 26 realms. And I was like, you mean like the 26 strings on the harp? Just saying. That can be used for spatial travel, that we find out later on. And so that's just mentioned really quickly when Gwyn is kind of like rattling off these things. She's like, no, she's not that bad because she's actually doing some really interesting things. But I mean, she's still really like, Gwyn is just like rattling off a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I bet you have it marked.
No, my first one's about Crochet.
Okay.
But I mark the ones that are like, oh yeah, it's my second possible connection.
Yeah, what does it say? Read it for us. Because again, migraine, so I couldn't mark anything while I was reading. So
lots of things. Meryl's brilliant, horrible but brilliant. When she first came here, she was obsessed with theories regarding the existence of different realms, different worlds, living on top of each other without even knowing it. whether there is merely one existence, our existence, or if it might be possible for worlds to overlap, occupying the same space but separated by time and a whole bunch of other things I can't even begin to explain because I barely understand them myself. Oh no, did you freeze? Oh, Jenn, we're back. She froze. Sorry. Yeah, Jenn's computer froze. Sure, she'll be back at some point. But Amanda, I'm not going to mention your comment because that'll give stuff away. But yes, agreed. Yeah.
My computer's tired, y'all. I've done 3 live shows this weekend. I'm so sorry.
I was like reading it, then I look up and I see that you're like still like, I'm like, oh no, did she freeze?
I know everybody, it may happen a couple times tonight. I'm sorry. I wish I had $1,000 to replace my computer, but I don't. Anyway, what was the connection? I'm so sorry. Read it. Tell me again. I missed it.
Lots of things. Meryl's brilliant, horrible, but brilliant. When she first came here, she was obsessed with theories regarding the existence of different realms, different worlds, living on top of each other without knowing it. Whether there is merely one existence, or if it might be possible for worlds to overlap, occupying the same space, but separated by time, and a whole bunch of other things I can't even begin to explain because I barely understand them myself.
All right. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, and that is, I love how she worded that, because living on top of each other, but separated by time, because that has always been what my theory is are we in the same place with different times, or are we in different places but the same time? This is what I don't know, and this is what I want to know, and I'm very excited to find out. But anyway, I realized that I skipped. Hold up, I skipped one tiny important part here, so I need to do this. So we find that out in the library. There is a part here too where Moore takes Cassian to the human land. So we have this first meeting with Jurian, Vasa, and Lucian. And Eris is there, and he tells that several dozen of his soldiers were taken. And that Vasa says the hounds detected strange scents there. And one of them seemed human, but not. So that's interesting. Which sounds like Braylon if she's like human, but not because of whatever. So this is where she'd once been young, but now she's old, blah, blah, blah. We know that. She's unable to winnow anywhere. So she wouldn't have been able to take Eris's soldiers, but they realized that Koschei is the sorcerer who imprisoned Vasa, and he would be able to winnow and help. So Koschei is the older brother of the bone carver. Mm-hmm. So Koschei is also, and I wish that Joe was here because she has so many great theories about Koschei. But he's one that I believe could have been, in the Throne of Glass world, because we believe like the bone carver and them are like from there, possibly. So he's someone that, I wish we could have questioned him before we, get rid of him at a point. But he's someone I feel like has crossover potential based on that. So anyway, very interesting. But at this point, we're just keeping an eye on what Baron is up to and if he's going to cross over or not. So let me see. Also reminded me of Ash and Aelin. Yes. Yep. Definitely does. Definitely does. Okay. So then let's see. What did I put next? Okay. So then we will talk about these two. So Gwen, she's going to be amazing. I mean, because we're going through kind of chronological, we just know she's a very eager priestess. She obviously has been through some trauma like all of them have. And she's definitely one of the first priestesses to really like reach out to Nesta and, you know, and Nesta does something for her, which I love. I love that. I love when we see Nesta be like protective kind of her, because she's like, this person showed me a small amount of kindness. I'm going to do something for her. And I really like that she does that. And then the same thing when we get to meet Emery, which I realized that I spelled it wrong here. It's corrected later. Not that anyone will care, but I care because I like to spell things. But we meet her when Cassian takes Nesta to a village finally, and she gets to meet this female owner of a shop who it was left to her very grudgingly by the Illyrians, but Rhys had changed the laws that daughters can inherit things, and so she inherited her father's shop. And I mean, it's the only good thing her father ever did for her. That's basically him dying and leaving it for her. Her father was a manipulative asshole who clipped her wings even when they shouldn't have been, because she's not old enough that it should have been done to her. But it was during the years under the mountain and nobody could stop him. But Nesta starts to become friends with her anyway. And then we still have Nesta refusing Cassian, like she refuses until we finally have a conversation where Feyre says to Cassian, keep trying, like try again. And I can't remember, like, okay, I think it's just because does Feyre say something about not doing it in front of people, or does Cassian just come up with that idea? Because it doesn't say it in my notes. So
I don't remember.
It's chapter 11.
Is it after the first time she tries the stairs, like going down the steps?
Oh yeah, it's like many times there. But I mean, it's chapter 11.
Does she say why she won't train? Because she hates me. Cassian Nesta does not hate you, believe me. She sure acts like it. No, she doesn't. Her words were pained enough that he frowned. She doesn't hate you either, he said quietly. Feyre shrugged. I thought she did. I don't understand why you two can't just be civil. That's about them, Nesta and Feyre. Then she talks about the trauma with her mother.
Yeah, let me see. I think he just tries something different. Because he's like, let's go up to Windhaven instead. Because he just says he's like, it says one last time, he's going to try one more time. And so he sets it up at Windhaven instead. So he says, it's just us. It's just you and me. Let's do it. So yeah, that's what they're saying up here too. They're like, Cass finally dissects the wording that she used when, making it do it in front of everybody. So perfect. So then they get started and she can't do anything because she's super weak. And also because they make the like favor too, because they do the bargain. We do the bargain of the tattoo that gets shared. If you give me an hour, I'll owe you a favor. But that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And she's addicted because it's something she can improve at. And I love that because it shows a part of Nesta that Nesta is a perfectionist. And so she's going to do this. And so that means that she has to start taking care of herself. So I love that. I love it. I love it. So we're doing the training, blah, 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 going through this. Yep, she's now making it to step 150. So exciting. Trying to get to the good part. Oh, and then we start having them, their sexual innuendo is starting to escalate. We got to mention that. We're getting closer to something happening with that. Okay, so now, did we talk about this yet? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm in the right order. I don't think we talked about it yet. Okay, so we do get to this where she asks Cassian if she can invite the other people. So she puts up the list. Okay, that's where I was getting. She puts up the list, but nothing happens. Okay, now I can move to this because this was the next note I had, but I had skipped a few chapters to get to this. So now we get to see kind of the state of where their relationship is at with this. And this is where what you had already mentioned too, where Nesta's like, you refuse to eat or drink or do anything, and I didn't let anyone bother you. And they kind of go back and forth for a little bit. And she's mad because Nesta's like, you guys made me feel like garbage. You just packed up all of the stuff that I had, which they're like, it was garbage what you had, but it was still hers. Like it was her stuff. And they just packed her up and booted her off. And then Elaine, of course, mentions their father somehow. And this Nesta kind of explodes a little bit and her silver flames come out. And so Elaine leaves. And then Reese is like, she just can't be controlled. There's so many problems with her. Because Reese always has to think the worst of her right away. This is unnecessary. And then we have our first, here it is. Then we have our sexy escalations. They almost do it against the wall. But then Azrael comes in and cock blocks us there. And then we get to finally explaining the trove. But let me see what some people are saying. I know I'm kind of going all over the place. The dinner table innuendos were fun. Yes, those were so great. That she won't train there when they've been interpreting it as when she won't train at all. Yeah, it's difficult. I actually got a tiny bit frustrated that no one got that she kept emphasizing she didn't want to train at the camp. Yes, very true. She said she wouldn't train in that miserable village, so he tried somewhere else. Yes, he picked up on it finally. Okay, so now we get the introduction of the trove and what's going on with this. So we have the mask, the harp, and the crown. The mask can raise the dead. The harp can open any door, physical or not, and the crown can influence anyone. Unfortunately, the objects were lost long ago, and the only people that have a chance of finding them were those who are also made by the cauldron. And this was very interesting because it has fallen out of memory. It's almost like there's a spell over them because that's why nobody even knows about them. And Amryn can't, she knows they exist, but she can barely think of them. It's that thought of you're trying to see something out of the corner of your eye and it's there, but you can't see it. Yeah. And only people who have been through it can do it. And so, of course, Elaine offers to help, and Nesta's like, nope, I'll be doing that. Thank you very much. The only problem is, Nesta doesn't really want to dive back into that, she doesn't like that she got gifts from the cauldron. They've made her life miserable from this point, but we can't let Elaine do it, right? We can't let Elaine do it. So, yeah. Nesta agrees to do it. Oh, and now we do have reciprocation of pleasure happening. I must have missed the one. I missed where he came in his pants. That's when they were kissing against the wall. And
where she says hot off the mark or something. Yeah.
Because chapter 22 is when he goes to settle his debt with her and give it back, which is delightful. We love Cassian. Cassian's going to get it right. Cassian's going to get it, everybody. Az is both the best and worst chaperone. Yes, he is. He is. He doesn't chaperone in the way that we would like him to.
A very underrated relationship in this is Nesta's relationship with Azriel. They had some really sweet moments together where you were just like, oh, okay.
You've got to read the one-shot fan fiction where the three of them have.
That has the scene that Nesta had in her mind that doesn't actually happen.
Yeah. They have summer solstice in the summer court, and Azriel joins them, and it's great. Anyway, sidebar, everyone. I apologize. Okay, so now we have a brilliant scene. That list has been up for a few weeks or whatever, I think a couple weeks. And Nesta starts doing her, I imagine she's doing her like sword positions, I think is what she's doing. You know, like you would do with you take your sword out and do your different things. And Clotho was like, you have to get her out of here. Like, we can't have the violence in the library.
She's doing like
she's doing the punches. Okay.
Yeah, they haven't gotten to the swords yet.
Either way, they're like, we can't have the violence in here. And instead, like, Cassian's like correcting her, and it ends up with him showing her. And then the next day, Gwen signs up because Nesta was able to show them that just because a man is teaching them, it doesn't mean he has to touch them, doesn't mean he has to crowd them. And he'll only touch her with her permission. And it's a really beautiful, thing. And I love it so much.
I love the moment that he realizes what she was doing too. Because he was like, but you got this perfect during training. And she's like, I know, tell Clotho I won't do it again. And he's like, oh, you wanted them to see this.
Yeah. It was really good. I love it. She keeps accent. And also because she wouldn't mess up too. That's the cute thing. He's like, you know how to do this. And she's like, you're right. I do.
Yeah.
So good. I love that she reaches out to the priestesses for training and finally gets them. Yes. And Cassian is the perfect trainer. Like I said, our sweet himbo. We love him so much. Okay, so now we have part 2. Finally have part 2. We'll go a little longer before I have an intermission though, because we're only at chapter 25. That's okay. Part 1, I think, like, is the longest part.
Yeah, it's kind of like Crescent City, where like 2 and 3 kind of run together. Like they're very
Parts 3 and 4 are very short. So we have part 2. And with this, I did kind of skip a little more because what I love is next Nesta's trying to draw Emery in. And so she bribes her with spices. And I just love this. I actually had just watched a little history thing. And I know this is a fantasy world and not a real world. But like spices used to be like worth more than gold because they were very difficult to get. And I imagine that must be kind of what it is in this fantasy world too. But Nesta, of course, just has... like, she can just get whatever she wants from the house. Like, the house just provides everything, which, I mean, I know we will talk about the house more, like, in the sidebar, like, at the end. Yeah. But the fact that things can just be, like, made that way, like, this is more powerful magic than, like, Harry Potter magic. Because in Harry Potter, like, you can't create food things. Like, you can't do that. And, like, magic there can literally, like, create anything. Like, it's amazing, which we get to in a really fun part of the book. But so she bribes her with spices. And of course, Emery doesn't want to owe her a debt. And so to say thank you, she goes to training, which is lovely. And then she agrees to come. Meanwhile, Cassian meets with Eris, who questions about the trove. And then... oh, there's almost sexy time again, but Azriel comes in again. Thanks, Azriel. Always rude at everything.
The kitchen table.
Yep. And he's like, I eat here. And it's like, yeah, good point. So now Emery does join. Yep, we said that. She comes. She's training. Oh, okay. So then we have a snap here. I forgot to put this. So Reese had hold on. Nope, we're not there yet. But Reese tells them about the weapons. So Is that what's happened? Reese comes to pick up Emery. No. Sorry. I'm distracted tonight, guys. I'm trying to read through this in the right way, but when do we get to this part? Oh, because I didn't even tell you this yet. So we find this out. We have to find this out before we can tell Feyre the secret. So Reese tells them about it, and this is very scary because Feyre, okay, let's be honest. There are some weird hoopies about how this is dangerous for her, because there's a thing that like she was shifted when they had sex, and so the baby's Illyrian, but then she's shifted back, but now she's not allowed to shift because she's pregnant, and so she has a full Illyrian baby in her, or I mean, it's only a quarter. It's supposed to only be a quarter, but it's 3/4. Because if she was fully Illyrian when they were having sex, but he's half Illyrian, the baby's 3/4 Illyrian, so it has wings. And Feyre, her body is Fey, but it's not made to have wings come out, which would be very bad. And we're not going to tell Feyre. We're going to keep it a secret, which this is one of Reese's upsets, in my opinion. But I mean, I don't hate him. I understand his reasoning where he's like, I don't want to stress her out. And I'm like, I mean, but it's your wife and it shouldn't be a surprise. Like, you shouldn't surprise her with her maybe dying on her baby bed. But it was pretty intense.
Well, and this happens after does happen after the swords, because they're not just worried about weapons.
Well, that's about to happen. This is why, because I have notes for all of it. We find out about the baby having wings, and Nesta knows about that because Cassian tells her right away. Just in a minute here, we'll get to it. I want to make sure I'm not skipping it. The swords happen, and then right away Cassian kind of flips it to Nesta, and Nesta does what she does. So
yes,
I just want to make sure that I was in the right order. So okay, because then what happens is Nesta tries to scry for the trove. This part happens next. And she gets like locked in this like death thing with them, and so she like sees the bog of Urid, I guess, but she like can't get out of it, and even Reese is trying to like pull her out of it, and he can't, and it ends up being like Cassian who's able to like get her out by like kissing her, and then I think by her describing what it was, that's how they know. Or no, the rest of the room looks at the location she pointed at, so she points at it, and it's the home of pure darkness and lurking evil, and it's the place called the Middle, where all of the things that are too bad get just put there. So all the really dangerous things. Go ahead.
We did miss a part where she tries scrying on her own.
Yeah, I just skipped
and
that
then
one.
She has a nightmare, and Reese has to, and that's when they realize she still fully has her powers.
Yes.
Because she wakes up and she's just surrounded by silver flames.
Yeah. I had skipped that one. I'm trying to skip something because
no, I know. I just thought it was something that I was like, we didn't talk about that, but
nope, that's fair. So then we go here, and it's Azriel, Cass, and Nesta. It's like, I need to go because I need to be able to help you find it, and so Nesta and Cassian are like flying together, and Azriel kind of like disappears because he gets shot by a ash arrow. And Cassian leaves Nesta like on a tree and goes to help him, and she feels like they've been gone too long, and then she tries to go, and she ends up getting pulled into the water by a Kelpie, and the Kelpie is going to try to rape and kill her. That's what they do, but she finds the mask is in there.
Yeah.
Or she's able to call it to her, or it's in there, whatever. So she's able to put that on and like cut the Kelpie's head off. And there's some really cool fan art out there if you look it up of her coming out of the bog holding that. But at the same time she's doing that, Cassian and Azriel are fighting the Autumn Court soldiers who it's clear that they've been like possessed. And we're able to infer that it probably has to do with Brielle is the one who had like taken them and is controlling them and making them do this. And we're only able to save 2 of them. Oh, and she also said when she had the mask on, she can feel the dead, which is what that's supposed to be able to do. Like they're supposed to control that. So they're able to take the soldiers back to the Court of Nightmares. And they're going to ask Hellion to see if he can break the spell that's on them. And so Nesta shows the memory of the bog to Rhys and Amarin and say that the Kelpie were speaking a language that was 15,000 years old.
Yeah.
Which is a language that's going to show up later on somewhere else. That language that nobody understands is just gets mentioned a lot, and I love it.
Yes.
The Kelpie was legit terrifying. Yes, I'm so scared of that in the graphic audio. Yes, Candace, I'm scared of it too, because like I just remember the scenes of like Feyre when she gets attacked by creepy things. Like, ugh. So yeah, I skipped right through these. I'm proud of myself. We talked about the mask, so we got that. And then we have our sexy time fully engaged here, where Nesta's taking a bath afterwards and Cassian comes. And then they're both coming. So that happens. Can't skip it, but the person who did this recap, they don't go into the nice details for us. So here we are. So now we're back at training. And so we have a couple more priestesses who are joining. And Gwen has started sharing more about what Valkyrie is. And so we start seeing these different aspects come into play that will help us in like later on. And so this first technique has to do with like the mind stilling, which I would basically say they're like meditating through things. Yeah. And it would help steady the Valkyrie's minds and emotions. And I actually love that this gets brought up because, again, I think this has to do a lot with what Sarah was going through, because she talks about using like yoga and meditating to help deal like when she's stressing. And that is something that I think Nesta needed so much, because when her head gets too loud, to be able to center herself and like quiet her mind is something someone who lashes out with anger needs. Obviously, she's not fully at a place to use it yet, as we're going to see shortly, but it's a good thing. So I actually have this. And I think the mind stilling actually leads to something later on that I really, really love. So I just wanted to call it out here. She was able to raise the dead army with the mask. Yeah, that does happen, Carmen. You're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip it. Just trying to move along. She's able to feel the dead and control them. Both things. That's what the mask can do. Correct. Okay. Nesta's learning how to climb that. She feels more settled in her own skin. It's so good. And now we have chapter 40, where which is Nesta takes her to the blacksmith and she does the little things with that. So she learns how to make the blades. She helps make one of her own. She tries with the 3 different weapons. And while she's hitting the wood, her rage and fear and hate, they're all kind of like in it when she's doing it. Yeah. We're going to see what that did in just a minute. But first we have Hellion come, and he arrives on a Pegasus, which is just baller. We love Hellion. Like, oh, I need to finish the fanfic I started about Hellion. I want to read more about him. Anyway, side note. But Hellion is a baller. He says there's not any spells that are binding them, but there is a fog that's around their mind. And Hellion meets Nesta and attempts to forge stronger wards around the mask that Nesta wouldn't be able to penetrate. But she's connected with them, so there's only so much. And then the person whose recap I'm reading, I love this. She says, Cassian and Nesta do the devil's tango. More sexy time is happening. That's what we're saying. Yes. All right. Then we have Rhysand calls the inner circle in. and tells them that the blacksmith dropped off these 3 weapons and says that they were cursed. And they come to the conclusion that Nesta made the weapons. There's 3 of them. There is a dagger, a sword, and then a like long sword, which is, you know, a great sword, a big heavy one that would be used in battle by a king or something. And Amren says something kind of interesting where she's like, with these weapons and the trove, Rhys could be High King and Feyre would be his queen. And what would that mean? And Rhys-Anne is like, I have no desire to do that. Like, I don't want to. And she's like, you know that pretty much the other High Lords would be on board. Like, they trust you. It's only Baron that you would have a lot of trouble with. And Rhys is just like, I don't want that. Like, I don't need the responsibility of it. We don't want it. And Amren says, well, there's the chance that someone else could get a hold of these things and they could do it if you wouldn't do it. But that's kind of where we leave things with that. Feyre votes that Nesta should know and Cassian does. But I think everyone else votes against her because either way they like don't win. Or maybe it's a tie. I can't remember. But either way, they don't tell her.
I think Azriel votes that she should know.
Yeah, but it's a tie because it's a tie though.
Yeah.
So they don't tell her yet, or they don't tell her yet. But okay, then we have an interesting one, which I didn't make a note for. Hold on, let me see what people said. I think Rhys will reluctantly become a High King. We shall see. That's an interesting one. The fact he doesn't want to makes him perfect for the job. That's right. That's true. That's true. But also, like, here's the thing, though. There's also not really a problem with there being cities, you know, like with there being states, you know. Yeah. There's only the one guy who's a problem. What's wrong with there being High Lords and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, I agree with Rhys where it's like, I'm happy with my night court and my peeps up here. Like, I don't need more problems because then you're a bigger target too. Like, if you're the High King, like, it's not everybody like standing with you. It's like you're the lone target. That I don't know. I see it both ways.
You got to play a lot more political.
Yep.
When you're a king then.
So next we have Cassian and Nesta go to the spring court to have their meeting with Eris, and they get interrupted by Tamlin. We get to see crazy feral Tamlin, and Nesta points at him and freaks out. In this book, there are multiple times where Nesta points at someone and everyone's like, it's a curse. Move away. Don't let her point at you.
Don't point your finger at me, witch.
Yeah, don't let her point a finger at it. I love it. Moore doesn't vote because she's away. Not telling her was so angry for me. Oh, I know, Komal. I know. I completely understand. This is another point too when people get pissy with Rhys. I understand. And Amren, again, I'm like, why wouldn't you tell her? What do you think she's going to use these for? I think part of it is like they haven't been seeing her go through the training. Like they don't know how much she has calmed down and is more rational. So there is that. Like they saw her blow up at Elaine. They saw her get so upset at Elaine that she burst into flame. Yeah. They saw those things. So I look at it from Rhys's point of view. He's a paranoid motherfucker as it is. And so I see it. Does it infuriate me? Yes, it does. It does.
Like my biggest thing is like the fact that he thinks that Nesta would harm Feyre. And that's where I get hung up on is no matter what Nesta did, she never physically did anything to either of her sisters. That's right. Never would, and I don't think she ever would. Like that was never a thought process.
She hurt herself.
Yes.
You know, and your enemies. She hurt herself and your enemies. Like yeah.
And so that's what bothered me the most about it was just his his one comment about Gwen and how, oh, you leave her alone or whatever. And it's like, what did she do?
Yeah, when he flies her around, that's true. Yeah.
Like that those two parts like bothered me the most about it. And I mean, obviously I can get it, but like especially the Gwen one was like she brought her here not to pick on her because she wants to help these women.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly think too, this is true. Like if we were inside Rhys's head, it is a very dark place right now. That's the thing I'll say. Like, it's irritating, both of those. But he is so, like, all he sees is a ticking clock right now. He really does. So I forgive him. Right. I forgive him because I love him, and he makes up for it with his apology.
Definitely.
Oh, so much does. Like, Reese is not a man who's too proud for anything. And that's the thing. But yes, it's infuriating. He needed a smack upside the head. Real bad. Like, he needed a smack upside the head.
The first time reading that, I was pissed. The second time, because I know what he does in the end, I understood it, but it was infuriating the first time when you're like, how did they do this to this character that we all love?
I know. But then it lasts literally a day because Cassian starts questioning her about some things and literally just, like, blows it immediately. Which to me is also him, like, he knows that it was wrong, and he's not, like, directly trying to undermine his High Lord, but he's also like, this is, it's his mate. So I personally think, like, this wasn't a, like, direct order type of thing because they took a vote on it. Yeah. But I also think that even if it had been, your mating bond supersedes, like, an order from your High Lord either way. But he immediately blows it. And so she's so upset, and especially when she finds out about Amren, and guess what she does? She goes and she takes all of those stairs. And here's the thing too, like, she doesn't go to confront Feyre. She goes to confront Amren. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, upon reread too, when I see it, that's, like, the final straw with Amren for her, is because she's like, you were my friend. You were the one who tried to help me. And the fact that you couldn't have the decency to tell me something about myself like this, it's just almost unforgivable. You know what I mean?
The two people that she thought were on her side, basically, she felt betrayed her. With Elaine and Amren. And this, Elaine moving her stuff was that straw. And then this was, like, the Amren straw.
Yeah. And then it happens that she, like, Feyre happens to come in, and she tells what everyone's been keeping from her. And it's like, how do you feel about it? Like, it's very much like a sisterly fight at the same thing of this unfairness of, like, you think that I would do harm with these. Well, what harm are you doing to Feyre of her not being able to know everything and her not being able to try everything? Like, that's the thing. Like, Reese is trying everything. Well, what would Feyre be able to try? What would she be able to do? The one thing they never do try, like, I know there's a solution to this, but they say she can't shift. What if Feyre had tried to shift and been mindful of the baby inside her when she did it? What if she'd been able to do that and had tried to do it when the baby was small, but you wouldn't let her do it because you were worried about it? And then we got to this point, and now it's too late. Anyway, sorry, that's a side note about it. But I'm just like, we could have tried something earlier to not get to the point where it's a fucking horror show for everyone involved having to see it. Anyway, everyone's agreeing with it. It's a serious scene, but barging on Amren. Amren and Varian are fucking all the time. Like, every time she's on his lap, like, those two, they're just fucking all the time, okay? All the time. It's happening. Like, there's someone I need to read. Oops, sorry, I skipped. Okay, here we go. We'll go to this. Because then he banishes her. Immediately, Nesta feels horrible. Like, she knows that she shouldn't have done it that way. But also, it was, like, a good thing because we get our, like, final, well, not our final, like, our second to last, like, snapping point of something, because there's still another one that's coming. But this is, like, the really big one where we have a lot of revelations about the biggest chunk of her pain. And so for this happening, for Reese freaking out, which I know some people, we, like, don't like that he does this, when he says, get her out of here or I will kill her. The first time I read that, right, I had fucking chills when I read that. I was like, oh my God, he's going to hurt her. Now, it being the fourth time, I really read it as, like, Reese, you are being a baby about this. Like, really, this time I was like, he's not going to kill her. And Feyre speaking to Cassian very soon after, being like, you know, if this is what's best for her, like, keep going, but like, I'm not mad about it. She was looking out for me. And when I reread it, and like, because I had forgot that she went to confront Amryn. She doesn't just, like, I had it in my head that she literally just goes to Feyre and is like, do you know what secret they're keeping? That's not what happens.
No.
Like, I feel like if Feyre hadn't come in the room, that secret doesn't get told right then. It just is in the heat of the moment where she's so pissed that they keep the secret and she spills it out, and then it's like, I hate myself. Like, I hate myself.
Oh, she immediately, I mean, she ran and was like, I'm so upset with my, like, why did I do that?
Yeah. She's like, am I ever going to stop hurting everyone?
Yeah.
That's literally, like, she already feels like she's a toxic for so much of the book. And then it's kind of like, well, why would they want to tell me a secret? This is how I react, you know? And the thing is, though, is like, she now has all these tools that she's been gaining through the Valkyrie and like through the training. And so there is room for, you know, for her to be able to grow. And so we have where her and Cassian fly into the mountains. Feyre communicates and says, like, she's not that mad. Like, come back when you're ready to come back. And they go on this hike, and they hike for days. And Nesta is kind of like ready to like give up. So she's not eating.
Truly was her hitting bottom.
Yes,
like,
this is where the
everyone
bottom.
thought she had hit bottom,
Yeah.
and she was starting to build herself back up. But I mean, then she went right back and really did. Yeah. This really was her hitting rock bottom, was telling her sister this secret out of anger.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, am I going to continue to lash out at people? Like, is this really what I am? And so we go, she literally walks until she drops, and then she snaps and she cries. And we have chapter 50 where she finally shares. She explains, I think this is where she explains about the fire, because he sees her sleeping far away from it, you know, and
they
Cassian.
Days before this either. Like, they're just walking in silence.
Yeah, it's for like 2 or 3 days. They don't talk. Yeah. And she finally falls and cries. And then Cassian tells about his mother and what that death did to him, and like how he reacted to it.
Yeah.
And how it didn't make him feel better to get revenge for his mother. It just still made him sad. And then they start training again, and they train until she's able to do her sword movements perfectly. And that's the end of part 2. And we will take a little intermission now, because we're over halfway in. We're doing good, but we'll take just a little, like, we'll just take 10 minutes and then we'll come back. Because we got to get into all the good stuff. Thank you, everyone who's hanging in here. I love you all. This is so much. So we'll be back at 7:40 p.m. CDT. All right. We'll be back. My computer's really testing me today. You're still muted, love. Welcome back.
Sorry.
Nope, it's okay. My internet just decided to blip out, and I was like, "You need to hold on, computer." It's okay. I just need to start using my phone eventually, which won't be fun, but until the business starts making enough money to buy a new computer, I just got to do what I got to do. So, alrighty. Well, we're over 2/3 of the way in, so we will get to part 3, where we're really going to start rocking through some stuff. So this will be good. Let me get to this. We have part 3, the Valkyrie. So, we have Gwen, of course, introduces another part that has to do with a Valkyrie, and this ribbon gets put up. And if you're able to cut the ribbon, and it doesn't just get batted away, that's when you'll know you have completed your training, and you'll be good enough to do that. Then we have Gwen knows that Nesta loves music, and she invites her to one of the priestesses' services where they will sing. And while she is listening to the music, she gets lulled into a trance. And she has a vision, which it explains it as her own body is the bones and the stones or whatever. So
she's in a stone cave, she's in a cave, basically.
Yeah, her own bones and the stone of the mountain are what makes her able to scry. And so she drifts into this trance, and she sees the harp, and she discovers that the harp is in the prison. So we just get to go to our favorite place that we have to always visit. And we go to the prison to get the harp. And in the prison, we, of course, get drawn to Cassian's most feared foe. It says he is, is he the death god? What's he called? He has Lanthus. But anyway, so we get called to him. So when Nesta finds the harp, she touched it, and she gets pulled into memories of war and chaos. And then also Briallen appears with the soldier. So she has, and I don't know if that, was this fully explained? Is she somehow tracking Nesta, and that's how she finds it, or she feels the disturbances? How does she know that they go? Or is there a spy? I can't remember. It might be there's a spy or something who lets him know. But
she was tracking it somehow. She, in her villain monologue, she talks about it.
Okay. It doesn't really matter why, but she shows up there. And so Nesta tries to leave with it, but it's stuck. And so she asks the harp to open up the wards, and she plucks a string that the harp is kind of use this one. But when she does that, it opened all the doors. It opens everything. I
think it just opened the one nearest to it, and that's where Lanthus was, is how it seemed to me.
Okay, I thought there were some others open, or they think there must all be open. They don't know at the time. Maybe. Yeah, because there's one of the prisoners' cell doors open, and it's Lanthus. Okay. So now we're fighting with him. Cassian is willing to sacrifice himself, but she uses the harp to her advantage, and she's able to teleport using it, basically, is what she discovers. And so she's able to use it to take her back to Cassian and try to kill Lanthus. And she discovers that when she uses Ataraxia, which is one of the swords that she made that Reese let her take with.
I think it's the great sword.
Yep, it's the great sword, which the name of which means inner peace, which gets revealed later, but it's cool to reveal it now because Nesta's the one who named it, and I love that she named it that. It's great.
From the old language.
Yeah, from the old language, which is pretty cool. And so when she, I think because when she's able to nick him with it, he's not able then to use his powers anymore, and he, can't get away from that. He becomes
solid.
Yes, he becomes solid when she nicks him with it, and so she's able to kill him with it. She's able to do that, and so But now they need to get away from everything else. And so she uses the harp, and she's thinking of the river house. She's thinking of that, and she's able to do it. She's able to teleport with him. That's what we're calling it, to the river house in front of Rhys and Feyre's place. So she thought she opened it up. Okay, that's what I thought, Komal. They aren't sure at the moment what happened. It isn't because they both have made so the queen can track Nesta. That sounds right, Carmen. Thank you. I believe that is true. Like Melissa said, she says it in her monologue at the end. And my point being, I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but I didn't really care at the moment. She's able to do it. So she does that. See, I skipped right through these. This is great. She uses ataraxia and the harp to escape. So we're able to make it to the river house. And then they're able to heal Cassian because he got hurt pretty bad. And then she tells them what Lanthus was showing her, that he would make her his queen, and they'd be able to rule everything with it. And so she kind of mentions that she hadn't wanted the harp since she already has the crown, but I mean, she still wants all of them. So Rhys comes up with his idea of how to remind Eris of their commitment, which we'll get to, which I was like, Rhys, this is also not your best idea you've ever had, sir. This is not your best idea you've ever had. Because, I don't know. I don't know if he meant this as a catalyst to, try to help Cassian and Nesta, work stuff out. That's what I want to believe. But, Rhys knows they're fucking mates. So what is he joking at? Sorry to, jump ahead to this. But, Rhys, will you just be okay if Feyre got used for something? No. Why would you do that to your brother? Suggests that marriage would happen. I don't know. It irked me. Because I was like, unless he means it to be a catalyst to, push them into it. And if Nesta doesn't want to be with him, then they could have her removed from the Night Court by having her be married to Eris. And that would supposedly be better for Cat. And I'm just like, Rhys, what are you fucking thinking? Anyway, this whole book, I'm like, what is Rhys's brain thinking?
Those of you, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give anything away, but those of you in the comments that have read Crescent City 2, go back to this chapter where they go back to the house, and there's a part where Rhys is talking about someone possibly using some magic in a negative way. And it'll, because I think it connects too. But I don't want to say it because there are new people who haven't read it yet. So.
Well, I mean, ataraxia means inner peace. We know what it means at the end.
It says it. Yeah, she says it at the end.
Amanda. We don't find out what it means when she's using it, but we've all finished the book, so I'm telling us what it means. Yeah. But did they ever talk more about the bone weapon in that vision? I don't know.
About that.
Why does he give Eris the knife? Well, I mean, that's to show his trust in him. But also that Eris has him keep it because he doesn't want it. That is a very smart move that Eris made, because Eris ends up in their hands very shortly after the winter solstice. But it's a big move that Rhys is making because he not only is he offering his sister-in-law, but he's also offers a weapon, which. Honestly, both are very powerful. To offer Nesta in marriage, Nesta is your fucking nuclear weapon, and you offer her to Aaron. That's a thing. That's a thing. No, it's easy to miss. There's I've missed stuff. You can tell. I've read this book 4 times, and I'm still needing to creep through the notes that I have because there's so much. So
well, yeah, and Amanda didn't you read it back in December. So
well, I think she reread it though. She said she reread it, but okay. Also, just to mention, this happens at the end of the chapter that they go back to to their home, and just kind of talk about Nesta and the Archeron's cottage. They go to the Archeron's old house, and talk through that. So, yeah.
She takes the wooden flower.
Yeah. Which is a really beautiful thing. She's just I hated this house, and it's a good like healing moment.
Yeah.
What is this? A less charitable interpretation I sort of took is that Rhys at this point still doesn't like Nesta and maybe wants her away from Cassian. Well, because my thing is, I was like, maybe he thinks if she's removed from there, that'll be better. But I'm like, you know that they're mates. It's not the same thing as Lucien and Elaine either. Like, that might be what he's trying to do, right? Because he got Lucien a job where he could be away. And, like, we see how happy that's working out, you know? I don't know. So, he
but
may be.
It's you know that Nesta and Cassian are doing it. Like, you can smell him on her.
Yeah.
And you can smell her on him. So you know that it's not the same as Elaine and Lucien, where Elaine's like legitimately trying to reject it. Yeah. Nesta just hasn't accepted it yet.
Right. Which we're getting to that too. So, all right. So then Nesta is starting to learn to dance from Mor. So Mor and Nesta have a little bit of growing together. That's very nice. Then Gwen there's like a book about the Valkyries. That's very cute. And then we have a huge step for Nesta where she asks the house to turn on the fire. And she's literally able to face the fire. And it's such a beautiful moment. It's really beautiful. I love it.
Has the house shown her its heart yet?
I don't know. I don't remember when that happens. So
that's another like beautiful moment. When the house shows her its heart in the darkness, basically.
Aw, I don't remember that. We'll see if it comes up here. Okay, so now it is winter solstice, and we have some big things happening with this. Feyre shares that she's pregnant, like that gets outed. That's happening. It is a really cool moment of like when like Rhys and Feyre walk in, and then Elaine and Nesta are behind her walking in, and Nesta is just like the hottest thing in the room going on here. She's beautiful.
And I love how Cassian's like, Nesta's like, Elaine's dress is wearing her. Nesta is wearing her dress.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. And so Eris and Nesta have their dancing. And Eris, just after a few dances, is like, what do I got to do for her? I would like her. I would like her. She's pretty great. And it's also this tiny bit heartbreaking because it's Nesta's mask is back on. And that's the thing that like Eris falls for immediately. And like, so that like hurts a little bit too of this isn't like the real her. And Eris is like, I will like her. But then there is, Rhys offers the weapon and Eris is like, I'm going to leave this here with you. Thank you for offering this to me. And like, I do too, like the conversation, because like Rhys is talking to Eris and Rhys is like projecting it to everyone. And they're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like Feyre is like, I did not say this was okay. Like, what are you doing? But Rhys is like, well, I'll have to talk to Nesta, which like we already knew he was maybe going to do. So then we have our reckoning between these two, which is really beautiful. So like they go to the river house to have their little celebration, and also she apologizes to Elaine, which is really beautiful. We're like on our road to healing with those two as well.
This is the first time you see Elaine have a personality, because she tells Nesta to F off at one point.
Yes. Well, she says something, but then like, well, yeah, because Nesta had told her to fuck off a long time ago. Like, no, Nesta tells her to fuck off. Nesta tells Elaine, oh, fuck you. Because she's like, be nice to Feyre. It's her birthday and she's pregnant. Oh. And Nesta's like, fuck off. And Elaine laughs at her. And she's like, you would have never said that to me. It's funny. No. Yeah, Elaine doesn't tell her to fuck off. Nesta's kind of like, don't do this right now. You know, it's like, we're having a good time. Like, stop it. I'm going to be nice to her.
Yeah, I'm not that much of a bitch to do that on her birthday.
Right. She's like, it's her birthday. And I mean, Elaine, she's like, well, I mean, you did it last year, kind of was the thing. Because last year she did do that. And it was, we all knew. I cried when Nesta called the house her friend. Yes, Lizelle, it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. It is her friend. that she made for herself. So we have this Cassian and Nesta, you know, go back and forth about the heiress thing, and she's like, well, maybe I will be with him. And Cassian's like, are you serious? Am I that much of like a piece of trash that like you wouldn't be with me? Like, we've been together all this time. It's like, it's just sex. We've just been having sex. And it's like, nobody has just been having sex. Okay, that's not what's been happening. But she finally admits that she's the one that doesn't feel good enough. She's like, you're perfect, you're everything, and I don't deserve you.
Just like, you're good, Cassian.
Yeah, like you're so good. And yeah, it's so beautiful. And so also he'd given her that beautiful gift, the symphonium, where he'd went and had all of the bands like play the music for her. And she knows that he knows her so well, you know, like he knows her better than anyone else does. Hold on, let me pull this up.
Oh no. Did we lose you again? Yes, Kamal. That was beautiful. It's one of my favorite quotes ever. It's when Nesta tells Cassian, like, I wasn't good enough for you before the war, during the war, or after the war. Like, why do you think I'm good enough for you now? So I just love it. And she's like, why do you think I wouldn't talk to you? Yeah, Jen's internet's really putting her through it tonight. So her computer's really putting her through it.
All right. I just moved to the phone. We're just doing my phone. We're doing it. I mean, all the beautiful stuff, and it's happening. The reckoning was so perfect, telling each other that they're it. Yes, it's so beautiful. And then when they have that beautiful sex scene where he's like, say it, I love it. Which is just like, you're mine, you're mine. We're saying it over and over again. It's amazing. I just have to grab my holder for this so I don't have to hold my phone up.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Oh, this is why I have. There we go. Okay. Technology will not break me, everyone. It will not break me. Okay. So, yeah, they have their beautiful night together. We admit that we're it for each other, but we still haven't like fully become mates yet. So, still coming, but that's okay. It's beautiful. So, let's see, where are my banners at here? Boop. Wait, where are all my banners at? Oh no.
That's what I wish, like, you could share banner, like, you know, like, I wish, because like we have the private chat. I wish like we could have like the banners.
Here we go. Okay, Cassian has to leave first for his snowball fight, but then also for work. So he has to do a few things. So he has to go to his snowball fight, and then he has to go check on the legions in Illyria. And so then we have the cute sleepover though. The girls come over and the house makes them a bunch of fun things.
Yeah. In like, the bathtub with the bubbles.
Yeah, there's bubbles, and there is like all the food that they could hope for. And yeah, it's so fun. The house is amazing.
And then they make friendship bracelets.
Yes, yeah, there's the friendship bracelets, which are very important, by the way, because Nesta kind of like does a spell on them or something, doesn't she? She like says something over them.
She makes, because so the way that it's described is Gwen says like, okay, so we're each going to make these bracelets, and then we'll each make a wish for each other. And Nesta goes, no, I want to make the wish for all three of us. And basically she just says like, hopefully we can always find our ways back to each other.
Yes.
And her kind of like with the swords, I think just her love, instead of it being her hate, her love is like pouring into these.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
It's a beautiful like juxtaposition between the friendship bracelets and the swords.
Yes, very good. Then it is kind of weird because like Nesta and Cassian, they're still not great about talking about things because he's back now. And like we don't talk about the fact that we just like poured our hearts out to each other because neither Cassian nor Nesta like to like talk about stuff. Because then literally like we like step up the Valkyrie training, and it says 2 months pass while they are working on completing the obstacle course and cutting and like doing the ribbon cutting and stuff for 2 fucking months. There's no more progression in their relationship. I'm like, seriously? Like, oh, Sarah is so frustrating.
Yeah, they do it every night, but they don't.
Right, but we don't talk about it.
Talk about it.
We got to do some of these. I love that Nesta got a girls' night and it felt like she belonged. Yes, I almost died at the friendship bracelets. Love it. Especially since she never felt that way with the inner circle. That's right. The whole sleepover was just the most adorable thing ever. Yes, absolutely. Totally was. So yeah, so we have all of that. They're working on the obstacle course. And now Nesta wants to be able to complete the entire staircase down and up because the last time she just went down. And so she's actually able to do it, which is amazing. And then their starfall happens again. And this is when Amren and Nesta kind of make up, and Amren explains, like, you made the house your friend. You wanted a friend, and that's what you did, which is really cool. So then there is a red star that goes across the sky, and Rhysand takes it as a bad omen. Feyre's only 2 months away from giving birth. And then Cassian informs Nesta that though she isn't participating in the blood rite, that's in just a couple of days. They meet with Eris, and he informs them that his father went to Briallen's, I can't say her name. Briallen, thank you. When I look at it, it looks like Braille. Yeah. So I'm like...
No, I actually read this one and listened to it, so I feel like I know the names.
Yeah. Yep. Then Cassian and Nesta talk about being mates, and she's like, why do we have to put a name on it? She's being a bit of a like commitment scaredy about it, which is kind of annoying. But he gets frustrated, and she calls in her favor in kind of a shitty way. Not gonna lie, a bit of the old Nesta poking their head up, and she's like, I want you to give me some time, either until I come find you or for a week. That's it. Yeah. Now, I kind of like this though, because this isn't, I like to call it, okay, this is a side note, but this kind of reminds me of like a Heartless breakup. You know what I mean? Like, because they're not breaking up. This isn't a third act breakup or anything. No. Because she's like, I just don't want to talk about it right now. Yeah. So give me some time. And I like that. Like, I like that. Even though, go ahaid, sorry.
When it's in Cassian's point of view, he's like, she just needs to say one word to me. Tomorrow need to get her to say one word to me, and we'll hash it all out.
Yeah. Yep. They did say he was distant due to mating bond, and he wanted her to take time. Yeah. I mean, he's a fucking patient dude. It's been like 2 years at this point since he's known that they're mates. So this is when I'm getting Gwyn and Azriel pairing vibes. Yep. Okay, but wait, I was wondering if the red star Rhys saw is really Aelin falling through the worlds. She talked about seeing a dark-haired, black-winged female and a heavily pregnant female. I mean, you're not even going, wait, what? Like, we'll get there. This is why when we talked about it in that book, we were like, that's going to happen later on. So you're not confusing things. That's absolutely a thing. Good catch, Candace. Good catch.
But yes, Komal's right. Because Cassian doesn't word his matingness correctly. He says something about being shackled together or being shackled to her.
Right. Well, this is where he's trying to play it cool. He's being his himbo self, and he's not trying to scare her. So he's like, I don't want to be shackled to you either, when he's actually like, I totally want to be shackled to you forever. Like, that's what he actually feels like, but he doesn't. Oh, here, I even had it. Cassian pushes for a label.
Yes.
And she's like, why? And it's because he's a needy boy, okay? You've pushed him away again and again and again. He wants you to put a ring on it, okay? That's where he's at, okay? That's where he's at.
He's ready for forever.
So he finds a loophole, and the next day he goes to Windhaven, where Emery lives, and Reese paled because they weren't there. And when they go inside, they're gone, and there's blood and the scent of other males in the house, and they realize that they've been put in the blood rite. And now we're at part 4, ataraxia, and we're at the last little bit of this story, which is just all the shit hitting the fan for us. So
this part, like, every chapter is like 4 pages and they're just moving.
Yeah. And this where I did kind of like condense some of the blood rite, because the most important parts of it are where we get to the end, and we are dragging into the 2-hour mark with this. So I'll push us a little bit, but we're in the blood rite. We wake up, the 3 of them are separated. There's fallen people everywhere already. But we have our friendship bracelets, and guess what? Our friendship bracelets are honing beacons that will help us find each other, which is super fucking cool. It's super fucking cool. And we just get to see all this training. And you know what? The best part of this is that I fully believe it, because she's been training for months now. Like, it hasn't been years and years like some of them have, but she's had the best teachers, and she's had like some of the best instruction that she could have. And so I believe that her smarts and her like intuition and the things that she's been taught would help them do this, right? And I love that. And also, because there have been rules broken and there are people fucking with the blood rite, there are weapons included, and there are things that wouldn't normally like be there. So we're able to do this. We also find out at this time, I didn't put this as a thing, but Reese is getting more and more paranoid, and he finally tells his friends that this is bigger than just if we'll lose a baby, or even if we'll just lose Feyre, which would be horrible, but our lives are bound together.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a catastrophic wipeout of the entire like family if Feyre dies in childbirth and the baby dies. We're losing our High Lord too. Like,
well, yeah, because he has to tell him, because Reese tells Cassian he has to go with Azriel to go scope out, because Eris has been captured. Yeah. And Cassian's like, no, I can't go. Like, my mate is at this blood rite. Like, you gotta go. And he's like, no, I can't. And they're like, why can't you? And that's when he tells them.
Yeah.
Reese can't die.
Yeah. He has to be careful. He can't be a suicide buddy like he used to be. So then we're she realizes that the friendship bracelet is like glowing, and that she's able to kind of follow it towards her friends. And so blah blah blah, where are we? There's lots of people dying everywhere. She finds Emery. Emery is unconscious, and she's been left in the water. And so now they're together, and now she's trying to find Gwyn, and so they're going to try to find Gwyn together. They spot a nightgown. It turns out the nightgown is a trick. And then we also we switch back to find out that it was Bellius, who is Emery's cousin. Yeah, it's Emery's cousin. But he also has the glassy eyes of the Autumn Court soldier. So even though he's a prick, we know he's a prick. He isn't doing this completely on his own, because it isn't unbelievable that he wouldn't be trying to kill his cousin because he hates her anyway, but it is kind of unbelievable that he would sabotage the blood rite, because they hold the blood rite as like their highest thing. So that is twisted that they would sabotage it on their own with weapons. Also, he's a cocky enough motherfucker that I don't think he thinks he would need weapons to take them out. You know, because he doesn't think the chicks would be able to do anything. So let me see here. Some people are saying stuff. And because they were females, they were underestimated. Absolutely. But they're Valkyries. They're fucking Valkyries. They are like, they can win because women did this before and they'll do it again. Pretty irresponsible of Rhys given his power and how provided safety for his card. Oh, I know.
We discussed this when we talked about Wings.
I mean, we talked about it when it happened. I mean, we were talking about it when it happened because we know about this. Like, that's also the thing where like, oh, that's really romantic, but it's stupid. Because what if your baby lived and you guys are orphaning your child because of your whatever, you know? Because that is the thing, is it's like, if we were to cut out the baby and he lived, but Feyre died, well, you're taking dad and mom at the same time then. And like, it is irresponsible and it's cruel. Rhys agreeing to the arrangement seemed like not protecting his court. That's true. But okay, let's remember though, when we have Feyre versus his court can fuck off a cliff because Feyre's more important. Yes. But a child that they would have, that is where I feel like he didn't think that through. But I forgot Rhys and Feyre made the death out. Yeah, it does kind of come back and you're like, oh shit. But yeah, it's something that I had my eye on because I was like, oh, Lord. Okay. So Emery is like, we'll be lucky if we can even get to the pass of Annalius, because that, like, they're all hurt, basically. Nesta is in the best shape, but, like, everybody's hurt. We have problems at the bridge. We have problems with people trying to get them. I'm kind of skipping through this stuff, like we said, because it's very dramatic going back and forth, but it's also just like, we want to get to the top of it. So what's happening then with Cassian and Asriel? So they reach Eris. They realize that he has been caught and figured out, and he's being controlled now. So again, really good that he didn't take that weapon that Rhys had offered him. Rhys does have a lot of fuck ups in this book. We're seeing he's not the perfect man we know and love Mads. But basically what like happens at the end of this is that Cassian is captured by Koschei and he gets given to Briallen. And now Cassian is under the influence of the crown. So once Nesta is like facing off with Bellius, with Bellius, so that the other two can make it to the top. They're just really going at it, and Nesta's like, my mate taught me how, like, I can defeat you. I can do this. But really, she's just hoping that the girls will make it, and then it will like end, and so like this will be over. So they're just trying to make it through. But then Cassian gets brought there by Briallen, and he gets ordered to kill, because that's the order. Cassian gets the order to kill, and so he like fakes out or like tries to kill himself instead, and that of course makes Nesta go nuclear. And there's the back and forth, like we said. We have a long monologue from Briallen, which we can talk about if I'm like missing important things with it, but her saying how she was able to do everything. But the important thing is Nesta's power explodes and she literally dissolves Briallen into ash, and the crown gets left behind. Like, that is how powerful our bitch is, that when her mate gets threatened, she literally, like, what's it called? She literally snaps Briallen out of existence. She goes full Avengers Endgame on her and snaps her out of existence. It's amazing.
Once she like I love how it explains how it like you could feel it in the river house, you could feel it in the spring court, you could feel the cabin was destroyed like because her power just literally like went through the whole world.
Yeah,
I love
crazy.
that.
Doesn't Eris have the knife? Well, I don't think so because Rhys agreed to keep it. Because he told Rhys, I'll leave it here with you. So that was where I said, like, that was a good move. So I think I'm correct with that because I just read that in the Solstice thing because Rhys offers it to him and he's like, I'm going to have it stay in your keeping. And I personally think that, like, Eris knows that he's at risk because he's playing, like, both sides. Yeah. So this was confusing to me, the whole Eris getting caught. I mean, I also think we don't go deep enough into this. I feel like his dad sells him out. You know, like if we were getting POVs of what's going on over there, and maybe we will someday, like maybe we'll know more of the details. But like he had shared that his dad had already been to Seabury Allen. And I feel like his dad maybe like figures out that he's on that. And I think his dad sells him out to them. Like that's what I personally think happens.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that it's a fake out with Eris. Like he is being controlled. So I don't know. I could be wrong. I will definitely not doubt that. But unless they like re-give it to him at another time. But at Solstice, when he offers it to him, Rhys keeps it because he's like, I'll keep this in your keeping. That's the last of it that I saw. We'll have to double check that. You could absolutely be right. But anyway, so now Nesta has the crown. And also the blood rite is done. But when they get back to where they go, Feyre is... Go ahead.
Get back. Mor shows up. Mor and Asriel show up on the mountain and say, we gotta go.
Yeah, that's what it says. It says Nesta runs to Cassian, but Mor and Asriel arrive. They're there. Whatever. Point being, Feyre's in labor. So, Feyre began bleeding and the baby isn't doing well. There's nothing that could be done. That's what we think. So, if the baby would die, well, the way this person words it, it's like, I mean, if the baby would die and they could get the baby out safely, like Feyre would be okay. But we're past that point where that can happen. But like, they basically cut her open. Like, this is really traumatic part of the book. It's extremely traumatic. It was very hard to listen to.
Describing all the blood everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, we're at the point where when, like, they're like, we see it in Cassian's point of view for a moment, and he's just waiting to lose them all because the baby. It doesn't really seem like the baby is even like alive at all. Like, I don't think that he's alive when he comes out, but Feyre has power. Not Feyre. Nesta has power over life and death, and the cauldron does for sure, which we'll like talk through this now. So
yeah, because they never make a point to say the still silent child.
Yes, they do. They do say that.
The point of saying still silent.
And we're literally seconds away from both Feyre and Reath dying. Like, it's literally like it says it's at like the last breath. And Nesta is able to call all the troves to her, and she plucks the string and stops time. So the 26th string on the harp is time, and she stops time. And when she does that, she can speak with the cauldron, and that's when she makes the bargain with the cauldron. She says, I'll give you everything that I took if you can help them live. And so they have this back and forth. And she's able to do kind of a lot. So not only does she heal Feyre in the moment, we heal the baby. He is grown to full term as well. But Feyre's anatomy also is fixed now, so they can have children in the future if they want to. And also Nesta models her own body after what is done for Feyre so that she's able to have babies as well. So the cauldron agrees to it. But we're not and we can talk about this, it doesn't seem like she still will have lost everything, because she still has something left, but she doesn't have, I mean, maybe she doesn't have the power to make things anymore. We don't know. But I would assume that's the power that it wanted back. So maybe she will have other Fae powers that you would just have with being turned into a Fae, the way that like Feyre did for being turned, you know, like we don't know, you know, or like Elaine has a power too that we haven't fully realized, right? So we'll have to see.
She could still use the trove, like no matter, even without these powers, like she could still call upon the trove at any time.
Right.
And it's believed that the mother let her keep some of the power. Not obviously to the full extent, but
yes. Yep, there will definitely be more. She was left with a drop of power, which for Nesta, a drop of what she had, I hate that she gave up her powers. So this is a good question, right? Because this was a problem a lot of people had when they read this one, is because it's a trope in fantasy where like someone gives up what they have to be the hero. And I agree with that, but I also think two things. One, again, I don't think she gives up, like she doesn't lose everything, right? No. She doesn't lose everything. Number two, right, she can still control the trove, which is power over life and death and time and all of that. She can still do that.
Yeah.
And also, even if she did, I think it's different, because this wasn't her giving it up for like a man or even for the whole world. She gives it up for her sister and her nephew. So even if she did give it up, I don't personally have a problem with that, because I think it usurps the trope to have power given up in sisterly love.
Yeah.
That is different than anything else I've seen. Although, like, I understand the thing of like, oh, she gave it up. This power is a burden for her that she doesn't want in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just me. It being given up for, how do we know she can still use the trope? Because she's still made.
Yeah, it says it in the book.
And it says it. Like, it says it that she didn't lose a connection with it. Like, she'll still be able to wield it. She just doesn't have the like power to make, is what I think. You know, like I don't think she'd be able to make weapons the way that she did before or something. But I don't know. We don't fully know.
Yeah, because she said like they were hiding the trove from her because she doesn't want to have that power.
Yeah, but she feels it still.
Yeah,
right.
She knows.
She said she feels it.
Yeah, she could still call upon it at any time.
Yeah, she could still do that. So, oh no, what am I doing? Oh, I hate doing this on my phone. So yeah, so, oh wait, I didn't skip this. So we have little Nyx. We have beautiful little perfect Nyx, which is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We're so happy that we have him, and he's going to be adorable. We love it so much. And then, yeah, we talked about this. Nesta remade herself a bit. There's a very touching moment with Cassian where she's like, we can have kids. And he's like, you want to have babies? And she's like, I mean, not right now, but like we can, and I won't die. So this is a plus. So this is good. This is good. This is good that we can do that. And so they kind of talk about the future. She's like, here, have a biscuit. And he's like, these are the only choices I have. I either have a big party or a biscuit. And she's like, yes. Love it. And then one of the most powerful things, they visit their grave with little Nyx, and the three sisters go to visit her father's grave. And I think that is such a powerful part of the story. Like,
yes,
it's a beautiful closure to have for her to be able to go to her father's grave and do that. So
her final piece of like healing is like letting that go.
Yeah. And at least being at peace with her relationship with her father. Plus she would have been the most powerful being, and that wouldn't have been easy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she would have always had a target on her back.
You want babies now? Yeah, you totally would have done it. Absolutely would. one last thing I loved. Oh, yes, we were going to talk about this. This is when I was like, oh, all that shit Reese has been doing this book, wiped clean. Because we all know what it means if Reese gets on his knees, because it's said multiple times. He bows for no one except for his court and his woman. And he bows for Nesta. And says thank you. And it's a beautiful moment. And Nesta too, because she says, this is my brother. Like, she acknowledges him as her brother finally. And that's just really beautiful. And I see them like, my like ideal relationship of them is she's totally the one who will give him the most shit, which is funny because all of his family like does give him a lot of shit, but she's going to be the sister-in-law that is like, are you treating my sister right? Because I'm watching you. Like, I'll give you shit, you know, like she's totally the one. And I love that.
And I loved that they had Reese kneeling from Cassian's point of view, not from Nesta's.
Yes.
To Nesta, I don't think it would mean as much.
Right.
You know, I mean, obviously it meant, like, you knew it meant a lot to her, but from Cassian, like Cassian saying like he doesn't do this, he's kneeling on the mountains, like, and it was like, that was, I think, a stroke of brilliance that Sarah J. Maas had, was saying, you know, putting it from Cassian's point of view, because I felt like it just added a little bit extra to it.
Yes, I totally agree. I feel like the fact that Elaine's body isn't remade shows that she isn't going to pair with Azriel. That is interesting. Interesting.
Does have a mate, technically. So.
I mean, I want to say, like, I still want Elaine and Lucian to be together, is my thing. So, we wouldn't need that. I honestly loved Reese in the relationship. Yes, perfect. Okay. So, were there any other connections that we haven't mentioned yet when we went through? I feel like we went through a lot, but you guys who are reading it, we've made it through 2.5 hours in. What are some of the connections you noticed? I'm like switching back to my computer because I can't hear you super well. It's not like on the phone. I can talk, but I can't hear you. So hold on. This is going to double up. So give me a second. Perfect. Okay. Whoop. Go away. No echo. So what are some connections? Go ahead.
So I know you were saying Koschei might be from Throne of Glass World. I'm thinking, I mean, I know technically, we know he's the Bone Carver and the Weaver's brother. Yeah. But I'm wondering if potentially, because we know that there is a missing Rasteri.
See, I think, so I want to clarify, like, I think that's Maeve's husband.
Oh.
Would that be his husband?
Could be.
Missing brother? Like, I don't know. That's what I throw out there. I think he has a name. Do they actually name him, or they just say the oldest brother? There's probably a name, but my immediate, yeah.
Could be.
But it also could be like his name means something different in a different place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But in him being the oldest brother, I don't know. Maybe that's wrong, because I don't know if those other gods, because there's the other two gods, and maybe like they're not related to the Bone Carver and the witch, but I don't know. The missing Asteri. Yeah. I need to learn more about that. There's more about that in the next book, right?
Yeah.
About the
and like there's a lot that I connected, but I can't say anything without spoiling the book that we're gonna read next.
Yeah, and I'm thinking more like connections for previous stuff.
And I honestly didn't see much other than the 26 and then the red orb flying through the sky.
Yes.
Like there wasn't much that I caught. And then I know the Kelpie obviously talking a different language, because it's saying it had different names in different lands. So
yeah. Yep. Yes, we of course have to talk about this Candace. This romance is beautiful. It is so many tropes I love. It's so grumpy sunshine, forced proximity, healing relationships and trauma going through together. Like, and the relationships are so beautiful. The friendships, all of it is so great. It's lovely.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said at the beginning. Like, this book is so, like, yes, the relationship is romantic, but the romance is, it's very romantic between Cassian and Nesta, but it's just all of the relationships in this book are what make this book what it is.
Amanda, I was saying, I wonder if Koschei was Maeve's husband, but I don't think that's true. I was just throwing it out there because there's that he's missing. Like, he got stuck in a different world or whatever, and Maeve doesn't want him back. So, but I think it's something else. But I need. Oh, you still need to read Throne of Glass. Come on, girl. That's what we just did for a year. It's okay. I saw someone say SJM. I mean, she did say it. I watched the live show when she said it. She said it on the live show where, like, we've met her already. The thing about it, though, is that, man, okay, so I haven't read the Azriel chapter. I never have. I've never looked it up because I'm kind of a person that I'm like, if it's not in the main books, then I don't count it as canon. Although I know I should because those are side scenes and, like, they're a thing. So I haven't read Azriel's scene. But, like, we know how people are about their mate. So is he really keeping a secret about it? And, or, like, because who, like, hasn't been around Azriel? That would be the thing. Because when you see them, like, you would know.
Or is he doing what, like, today, trying to not?
I didn't hear any of that. You blurted out. What was that?
Oh, or is he doing like what Nesta did, where I think Nesta knew all along, but she was trying to deny.
No, I know that. My point is, like, who, like, but there would need to be some hints about it. Like, who is he acting different around? Like, what's happening? That's my thing. Because there's still hints in this one about him, like, pining for more. Yeah. Like, there's still stuff about it, which it always surprises me when I reread these because I'm just so over the Mor and Azriel stuff that I'm just like, don't fucking care about it. Yeah. But there's still things where he's being, like, weird about her. So if he has a mate that's someone else, how could he still be pining for more if he knows who his mate is? Like, shouldn't he be pining for that person? So either it's someone he meets in this one and is hiding it. So is it Gwen or Emery? Is it a priestess? Like, what if it's a priestess who's had, which, I mean, again, could be Gwen, but, like, what if it's someone else?
Yeah.
Who he, like, hasn't been around because they stay in there, but we've met them because we've heard their name.
Yeah. You know. I mean, there were, like, upon rereading it, there were little moments between Azriel and Gwen that I was catching.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe it is. Like, maybe. And, like, maybe that is because they're both so traumatized.
Yeah.
That maybe they're just not able to register that it's the mating bot, that they're fated mates. Because there were little moments where, like, Nesta would catch him staring at her. Or Nesta would catch her staring at him. Like, there were just, like, little bits and pieces that I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could see the, like...
Yeah.
Laying of the foundation.
No, I buy Azriel and Gwen more than any of it. Like, that's the one that I think it is. I don't really pair him with anybody else. Like, that's the pairing that I see. Because the stories I see us still getting, like, Azriel needs to be with someone, and the Lucian and Elaine thing needs to happen, and then whatever's going to happen with Mor, like, needs to happen. So, I don't know what that would be.
Well, and this also lays groundwork for Mor and Emery, because, like, Emery's, like, enamored with her and, like, stares.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I heard that might happen. I think I wanted Cassian to be a little less consistent, though. Like, a little bit of doubting or giving up on something. Oh, okay. Took forever, and she gave him such a hard time. I mean, I didn't want him to fly back and forth. Sorry. That's just not the kind of men that Sarah writes.
Yeah.
It's the women who get the choice. But I mean, that's fair to want to read your book that way. But Sarah doesn't do that. It's the women who get to choose. That's just how Sarah writes. Like, look at any of her books. Like, the men, they see their woman and they know. And the women are the ones who decide. It's just how she writes it. It's just how she writes it. What is Azriel's chapter? Azriel's chapter was a bonus chapter in one of the special, like, edition. Was it the Target version?
Target, Barnes & Noble, one of those.
Yeah. You can look it up online. I haven't read it. Like I said, I haven't looked it up. I haven't read it.
I read it.
Yeah.
Just Google Azriel chapter Court of Silver Flames.
Yeah. She does that because, you know, when you're as famous as her, each place does a special edition of one of the books. Yeah. So it gets people who love it to buy 4 versions of a book to get a single chapter, when I'm like, no thanks, I'll just buy one and then look it up.
I think Reese and Feyre have a chapter in the paperback copy that just came out, like a new. Yeah,
it says it on the notes that I was using. It says there's an Azriel chapter in the Barnes & Noble, and then in the paperback they put that in there. So or an MF. I don't think so. Moore is supposed to get a FF relationship, but interesting. I just don't, like, I'm just being 100% honest. Like, you could do an FF, but I don't see Sarah's series having like a poly scenario in it. I just don't see that happening. But I do see a Sophic happening, because otherwise, why did we go through all the awkwardness with Moore if it's not going to happen? Like, we talked about that when we read the books. Like, the thing with Moore happens like pretty abruptly. But I mean, she is bisexual, so I wouldn't completely rule it out.
Yeah.
How about we get Hellion back? We could have Hellion and Emery and Moore. I would be in for that.
Yes, Hellion would be in for it too.
Yeah, you can look it up. Yeah. Gwen has suffered severe trauma. Maybe he's being cautious. Oh yeah, for sure these.
Well, and so is he. That's what I really am interested in his.
Yeah.
Like, knowing about, because he is just like, and that's one thing, like, earlier in the, you know, at Winter Solstice, when he's like off on his own and Nesta goes and like has that moment with him, because he does have such trauma in his life too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's those are what I see happening. I think I said this like in the beginning. I think Elaine is going to get sent on like a mission somehow. Like, it's going to be her turn to step up. She's going to make a whole big thing. Like, nobody will want her. And she's like, it's my turn. Like, I need time away from this. I need to grow who I'm going to be. And so I think she's going to get sent on like a peacekeeping mission or something like that. And Lucien will like be there too. And we're going to like work through this stuff, because Elaine has a lot of, I mean, I don't think she needs to grovel to Lucien. I think she needs to grovel to us. Yes. You know, like, let me explain it that way. Like, I need Elaine to grovel to me, the reader, and prove to me why I have like stood up for her and been like, okay, don't condemn her. And I need Elaine to grovel to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she should have to grovel. She's been through a lot of traumatic things, but I need her to grovel to me. Yeah. Prove to me why you're worthy of it. Helene is super fun. I hope we can know more. I mean, I don't know. See, we also would if we get Lucien's book, because that's Lucien's dad. Helene is Lucien's dad.
Does Lucien know this yet?
I don't think so. We didn't tell him before. So that is definitely what needs to be his like character arc in a book, is finding out about that. Maybe that's one of the courts he goes to with it. You know, he's our emissary guy. He needs to heal his relationship with Tamlin. Like, I mean, I want him to. I want them to work on that and everything. And that'd be great. What about Tamlin and Elaine? So this is an interesting theory, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it's one that I have visited before. I have thought about before. It would be like Beauty and the Beast 2.0 if she went back again and is like him getting retamed. But I don't know that Tamlin gets a like full book. I feel like he gets a redemption, but it's going to like be through Lucien's book. Like, that's what I think would happen, because Lucian's the one that he really hurt and is the relationship that I think he will care about fixing if he comes out of his thing. So that's my personal, that is my like personal wish and or theory is that Lucian and Elaine will be a thing. And through that, Lucian will find out about his father and get to like, you know, maybe get his mother away from Baron. Like if we get to kill Baron, maybe like he gets to spend time with his, you know, maybe his mother needs to come stay with him so that she's safe from all the horrible brothers. Maybe. And then maybe she goes to Hellion's court to like heal or whatever.
Okay. Theory.
Yeah.
So Elaine has to go to the spring court with Lucian for some sort of like to try to kind of rein Tamlin back in because there is saying it is the spring court is perfect for Elaine, but another court that could potentially be perfect for her, the day court.
Yep.
So this, you know, plays into what you said, and Lucian finding out.
Isn't he Dawn?
Is he Dawn?
Isn't he Dawn? I think so.
Oh, well, Dawn or Day. Both of those would be perfect. They're both great.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. Who's Dawn and who's Day?
Maybe he is. I don't know.
Maybe Day. He's some kind of light, and that could be Dawn or Day. Somebody has to know. Is he Dawn or Day? But either way, you're right. Light would be great. He's Dawn or Day. One of those two.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I mean, but I think all of those things will happen in a book. I think Sarah will have, like, Tamlin's redemption get to happen, and we'll see it through Lucian's eyes.
Helion's Day court.
Helion's Day. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I see happening with that. So that's my personal guess. And then Azriel with whatever. But I have also said this. So that thing where, and this is my other like crazy theory that I say, if we say we've met Azriel's match, doesn't have to be in this series.
Nope, doesn't
have to be in this series. And for those of you who haven't read the last book, you're gonna find out what I mean really soon. But because my other theory too is I wonder if Tamlin will have a mate that's not anyone, because I don't know who to match him with, but then like I don't see him matching him with anyone that exists in this world. But we're about to have some major crossover stuff for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think this was also said too that because I think someone's love story from here will happen in a Crescent City book. That's what I believe. Like, I'll just say it. Like, I think someone's love story, like, I honestly don't know whose, but someone's love story will take place in a book that is called a Crescent City book.
Yeah.
But will be one of them.
Yeah. Amanda, yes, Lucian is Autumn Court, but he's not actually, because his dad is not really Baron.
Yeah.
And Helion doesn't have any other kids.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, Day Court would be perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
and again, like, if we have to take out Baron and then Eris becomes, you know, that's the one that we're going to back to be the next High Lord. You know, what if the mother wants to get away from there because of the bad memories or like whatever? And then it's like she goes to the Day Court to heal, and there can be a cute little love story there. And then Lucian can go visit his mother in the Day Court and get to know his father. Like, that's what I see being a thing. Yeah. Which would be amazing. Like, oh, it'd be so cool. It'd be so cool. So we don't know who's next. Come on. Like,
she said it won't be Azriel.
Yeah. He will get one, though. She said he gets one, but it won't be next. Next is Crescent City 3. So,
yeah, we don't know when.
That. We don't know who all the characters involved in Crescent City 3 will be, but we know that Crescent City 3 is next. Yes, girl, I'm so ready to read Crescent City 2.
I know, me too.
I'm so ready for it.
Probably going to start it as soon as I get back from all my trips.
Yeah, I forgot. Well, okay. I think we've done it. I think we got through most everything.
Yes.
This book is my favorite, you guys. This book is my favorite. I love it so much. Also, if you don't have this cover, what are you doing with your life?
I need money so I can buy them.
And there's the kick-ass Valkyries in back there.
I love it. That one might be my favorite cover. The Mist and Fury one's really pretty though too.
It is really pretty, but I mean, I just love Nesta, so.
Yeah.
I just love
I do. That is really gorgeous.
No, because Sarah is only contracted for the next book so far. Like, I feel like that's part of the reason we're waiting on announcements, because she said in the things like, there's a plan for there to be 4 Crescent City books, but she was only contracted for 3, but there is 4 houses, and she has plans for that. She also, I think, has plans for, because did she say that this was kind of a bridge book in one, and there's going to be like 3 more of these she has plans for, I think. Those were her being vague about stuff. Like, that stuff could change or whatever.
I mean, there's so many characters.
Kind of like a bridge book between like what the next story arc of things will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's what I remember from her interview with Sarah McLean. I was really trying to glean stuff from that. So
Amanda, it's just an Audible exclusive.
What are people saying?
Amanda wishes there was an
audio. Oh yeah, they're totally. I mean, I listened to it.
Yeah, but it's Audible exclusive, so you can only get it through Audible.
Yep, it's there. Thank you for another raid chat. Yes, I know. We only have 1 more. You guys are also great. Thank you for all of you who have made it through these. I can't believe we're literally a year into this. Because I read Crescent City 2 a year ago and was like, we have to start from the beginning. Let's go. So it's amazing. Is that the Dusty Bookshop? Yes, it is. They're actually not super unreasonable. I know that that's a point of privilege to say, but it's about like $120 for the set of 5 of these covers. And the Throne of Glass was actually like not that much more. It was like 170 or something. So, I mean, I know it's not cheap. It's not, but they're pretty amazing.
Well, the hard part about the Throne of Glass ones is finding the actual Throne of Glass books in hardcover.
Yes. Yep.
Although I think they're re-releasing with the new covers in hardcover also, so it'll be a lot easier, but
yeah. Well, and those are all in hardcover, and then I think Dusty Shop will change the dimensions so they'll fit, because they're new dimensions on some of them. Yeah, no, I started collecting mine when they started stopping, because I was like, I need all of these in hardcover, and I'm glad that I got them all because they look amazing. But all right, what else? We'll finish this up here. This was amazing. Thanks. Yeah. This is dedication, all these SJM-ALONGs. I started reading on the second. You're on the second book. Oh, I love that. Yeah, all the lives are saved in a playlist. I have a playlist for all of them. So I didn't think I would make it through this whole read along. Oh, I know. It's so great. You're so welcome, Amanda. It's so fun talking with you guys. I love theorizing and being a nerd together.
Yeah.
I'm sad this was the first one you heard about. Well, they are all saved, like I said. We were also very lively in the beginning. We had a full cast of friends.
Yeah, we had like 6 people on each one, and then like
we were packed, and life happens. Like, this was a commitment. But you know what? Like I said, the videos will always still be there, and someone will do this again. Like, people are gonna do read-alongs for these. Like, there's already another one going for like the 4.
Yeah, the first 4.
Yeah. So you'll be able to do those. So anyway, well, I'm gonna close this out. Thank you guys for another awesome show. We'll see you on the 31st of March. That one's on a Friday night. Because I was like, let me do it on the last day of the month, but it'll be on a Friday night at 6 p.m. and we will be going over the last one. And boy, do we all
that's gonna be a long one.
Oh my god, it is. I was even saying I may do like a follow-up live where we can talk about everything, because that book is gonna take us a lot to get through. So
yeah, just to get through the book.
Yeah.
And then doing all the other stuff.
Yeah, we might have to. So, all right. Well, good night, my friends. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.